Hazel always knew there was something special about her cat Mooney, but she's still shocked when Mooney opens his mouth to tell her he's just had a vision. An ancient evil has awoken after centuries of sleep, and only one man can stop it, the legendary warrior Beowulf. Unfortunately, it's been over 1,000 years since he slayed a dragon, and he's been reincarnated as this guy. His name is Victor, and he's more unemployed millennial slacker than mighty warrior. Go to monarchpublishing.net for a free sample comic.
Seconds.
Welcome to Clever Title Pending with your host, Brian K. Morris, independent publisher, freelance hybrid author, award-winning playwright, and former mortician's assistant. Don't send him title recommendations because Brian knows exactly what he's doing. So just sit down and look pretty as Brian K. Morris scrolls through your comments and plays with his mouse. Join him on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central for Evening Pandemonium and Moonlight Madness.
And good evening, everyone. How the heck are you? Welcome to a very special Clever Title Pending for February 23rd, 2021. Hope you're having a great day and hope we can make it even better because we've got a fantastic guest coming back tonight that you're going to love. You've loved him before. You'll love him again. We'll keep having him back on until you stop loving him. I don't see that happening anytime soon. But anyway, thank you to everyone who's watching us, whether it's live and we get the interaction and your questions answered, or the people who are watching us on the rerun. We appreciate you all. We really do. And we want to say a special thank you to the people listening to us on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Spotify. Also to Geek Insider for powering this show. And also to our sponsors of tonight's episode, Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you because it matters to your readers. So please check out plasmafiregraphics.com and check out their page on Facebook. And also we are brought to you tonight by monarchpublishing.net. You saw that great comic book for a brand new version of Beowulf on it. They're currently crowdfunding that on Kickstarter. Please look for that and check out Grant Lankard's work at monarchpublishing.net, where you can get a free sample of that great Beowulf book. All right. And also, thank you to everyone who's watching us on Facebook. If you would please, if you like any part of this video, please like the video, would you please? It helps us so much. And please like the page you're watching on, whether it is Kathy Jackson's Books, Rising Tide Publications page, or the Rising Tide Broadcast Network page. It helps your host so very much. And if you're watching us on Facebook, or excuse me, on YouTube, brother, please give a thumbs up to that video and please subscribe, share, and when you subscribe, be sure to ring that little bell so you'll be notified of all future appearances. And also want to give a shout out to my Patreon subscribers. Thank you to each and every one of you. If you want to support this show on an ongoing basis, please go to www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris and check out the offerings we have for you. We wouldn't let you support us without some sort of reward. And also please check out the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. We've got a full itinerary of shows and a brand new one. Take a screen capture of that if you would, so you can see the schedule there. Also, we have a page on Facebook with the Rising Tide Broadcast Network in its full glory. And tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, we've got a brand new show, issue number 1 of Comic Book Spectrum, with myself, Eric Hawkins, Clyde Hall, and Brian Rodman. We're going to be talking about comic books past, present, and future. How do I know? I'm looking at the graphic. You should too. Anyway, please check that out tomorrow night for our premiere episode. Looking forward to talking about comics in a positive light. It's going to be a lot of fun. And speaking of a lot of fun, I've got somebody on that we're going to bring on now. I love talking to this guy. That's why we're a couple minutes late, because we were talking, and we always have a good time here. And so I'm bringing in the first I'm going to make sure he's unmuted. I'm a professional like that. Anyway, it's the one and only Bobby Nash, BobbyNash.com, AbrahamSnow.com. Bobby, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate you, man.
Oh man, it is my pleasure. It is always great to be on here and chat with you. Yeah, we were having a great chat beforehand. It's like, oh wait, we got to stop and do the show, and I'm like, oh
crap! Those people are so insistent. All those clever Mormons, I tell you. But I know they're excited to see you back. We've already got comments piling up, and we will get to as many of them as possible.
Cool.
But I can't think of too many people who have been on this show or have wanted to a third time, Bobby. So we're breathing some pretty rare air here, brother. And notice, folks, that Bobby and I did not coordinate, in person, but here we are. Yeah. We're in our blue period.
If I finish my drink quickly enough, I can fake a fez.
Do it, man. Do it. Now, and then, maybe I can put on something else. I've got some other hats around here too. So, hashtag always prepared. But no. I tell you, I love, now Bobby has a Patreon page too. In fact, I should put that up. Because I did actually remember to do so. Check out the work of Bobby Nash at BobbyNash.com and also at Patreon, Bobby Nash. Now,
I try to make Patreon a very inclusive type thing. I try to give my patrons some exclusives. I do serialized novels first there before they get published, which I think people are enjoying. I hope.
It's good. I am.
and so those are fun. The added bonus of doing them like that is sometimes as writers, and I'm sure you've been there, it's easy to put stuff aside. I'll get to that later. But having to do a chapter a week of whatever forces me to get that chapter done, even on the weeks I'm busy doing something else. Right. So not only am I giving content out early, it helps me to get content done, which has actually helped improve my productivity a little bit, which is always nice. Because man, sometimes my productivity is either it's up here one day, it's down here the next. Yes, it is a roller coaster ride.
Yes, it is. And I have to say that, when I put up my Patreon page, yours was one of the ones I looked at. We've never discussed this, but yeah, I looked at yours. I really liked what you were doing. And I'm doing the chapter reveals too. So
it's fun. It's fun because that gives you something. It gives you a way to promote stuff. Plus, because I can promote the Patreon site without, again, like we've talked before, you're not banging people over the head with buy my stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But I do, in addition to that, I write like a almost daily writing blog. Here's how the day shook out.
Which I like. Very enjoyable.
Yeah. So that, I try to make sure there's content because, it's, I figure if people are ponying up $1 here, $1 there, it's, I want to make sure they're getting their money's worth.
Right. Now, I talk to a lot of writers about Patreon. And I know I hesitated for the longest time to pull the trigger on it myself. And again, imposter syndrome, I'm the poster child, thinking, well, who would want to do that? And then to find out people actually do want to come in and support you, which is gratifying. What made you finally, make the move to Patreon?
Well, actually, a friend of mine suggested it. My buddy Dave, who does a podcast called the Needless Things Podcast. I was on his show. It's been a few years ago now. I was on his show and we were just talking, and he had a Patreon for the show. And so we talked a little bit about it, what it was and how he was using it. And he really, he kind of sold me on it by telling me, what all, and with them, it's a podcast. So, he was giving them podcast content exclusive or, because a lot of times when you do pre-recorded podcasts, you have extra content that gets cut.
Yes.
So you can give that to your it's a little bonus you can give to your subscribers. So and he really sold me on it. So Dave really sold me on it about how good an an outlet for the creativity it could be.
Mhm.
And I think I have 14, 15. It goes up and down too. I mean,
You're right. Yeah.
it's because people are in, people are out. I think I have
Right.
15, 16, somewhere in there.
That's great.
And so, but yeah, so it's cool. And so I do the things for no matter what level you're in.
Mhm.
You get the serialized novel, you get the blogs, you get.
Mhm.
I don't post everything I put to social media because I don't want to overload them. But
Right.
like tonight, I'll post when this, links to this and
Mhm.
interviews and things like that as well. But I also do like from the $5 and up tier, once a
Mhm.
month you get a free ebook
Nice.
of my old stock or new stock.
Sure.
Something new comes out, they get an ebook of it automatically. You get up to the higher tiers where more money. You get some of them get paperback copies. Whatever comes out, I sign one. It's in the mail. Excuse me. And
Beauty.
so yeah, so it's all about just trying to give them content, but also exclusive stuff. They
Mm.
a lot of times when I'll post on social media, had a good writing day. Here's a here's a sample, and I'll take like a weird angled photo
Yeah.
of my screen where you can't
Yeah.
read much. I'll still share that with them, but I may go ahead and like give them here's what I wrote, so they
Mhm.
can see some of the behind the scenes stuff.
Sure.
So that stuff's fun. I enjoy that.
Yeah, and I enjoy reading it too. And I admit there are some days where you're like, yeah, I got 2,000 words done today. And I'm like, I am total dirt. I've been playing,
Well, but there are
I've
other
been
days.
playing Injustice 2 all day. And
But now there are other days too where I'm like, well, my characters weren't talking to me today, and I accomplished nothing. So
yeah.
it's very weird. I mean, because in addition to as much fun and work as the writing is,
Mhm.
I do have to adult occasionally, and then I have to, and as you know too. I mean, there's more to being the job of being a writer than writing.
Right.
Like there are some days I have sat down and worked 8 hours and haven't written a word because I'm doing important stuff.
Right.
But you have to learn. It's a juggling act. You kind of have to learn how to balance that, and we all do. And we all have our own system that works for us. But I have to be careful because I can get lost in
Yeah.
the other stuff, and then go, "Oh crap! I haven't written anything." You got a deadline. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And now you have been graced, sir. Good sir, you have been graced here. We have a joke from Cindy Kep for you.
okay.
And this is a great transition. Note the skill of the interviewer as he transitions to the next subject. What's an egg? Asked Cindy Kep. It's a snow house without a loo.
Ooh, Snow House. That's not in my list of possible snow titles.
No, it's not.
May
Now
have
watch
to.
this, folks. Watch this, folks. Hey, Bobby, you write a series of books about a character named Snow, don't you?
I do.
It's like Cindy and I coordinated this, but
I'll,
no, we
I'll,
did.
I'll give you another one I found yesterday
Okay.
that I didn't know. We're doing these things called snow shorts, which are short stories written by me and other writers. Like there's this guy,
Charles
fez
F.
wearing
Milhouse.
guy. Yeah,
Charles F. Milhouse. Yeah.
yeah. But and you're going to write one, and so
Yes, I am.
it's
I'm researching right now.
And so the second one that came out was written by Gary Phillips. I've known Gary for years. Gary actually edited Snow Falls when it was at its original publisher. So Gary is involved. Gary has his toes in snow, the snow world. And so he wrote a Big John Salmon short story, which is Snow's buddy, who was a former car thief.
Right.
Great crime thriller story. A lot of fun. So, and I've, like I said, Gary, in addition to writing books, I know he works in TV and he works in a lot of things. So I'm on social media last night and I see a story someone posted about Gary, and they're talking and I didn't know there's a show on FX about it's like a thriller about the start of the drug like cocaine or empire called called Snowfall on FX called Snowfall.
Ooh.
That a lot of people I've been asked a lot. Is that your book? No. But I found out last night that Gary is one of the writers of the show Snowfall.
Oh wow!
And he's writing snow stuff, for me, which I just like. I love that. That's like awesome symmetry. So
That is fantastic. Oh, that's fantastic. That is so cool. And hello to everyone who has said hello. We've tried to flash your names on the screen. And Jason Waltman has a comment. Bobby is something between a genius and a madman.
probably closer to the mad side.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never seen you angry. You're fine. No, anyway. Now Cindy Kemp begins her interrogation. Now here we go. Accept this in the spirit of which it is asked. Which Muppet are you most like?
Ooh, that's a very good one.
I have my answer.
There's a small part of me that wants to say Kermit, just because of that look Kermit gets when he gets frustrated. I recognize a lot of me in there.
Yeah,
but I'm also there's a little bit of Fozzie Bear in me too, because I'm not really as funny as I sometimes think I am.
I'll deny that.
But yeah, but I'm also kind of fond of animals. So
yeah, I'm purely Oscar.
Very nice.
I am Oscar. I didn't realize this till I used to work for our local PBS station back in the University of Illinois. And one night they were doing like a fund drive, naturally. And like one Saturday night, they had a special Sesame Street episode. And it was, hello, I'm Kermit the Frog. He's dressed up in the overcoat and everything. And it's like, we're going to cut back to your local radio, your local TV stations, and they will talk about the benefits of funding Sesame Street. And he's doing it by the trash can, of course. And of course, Oscar comes out. Now, this is while the head of the station, the second in charge rather, is giving this wonderful speech to the volunteers about our mission. Mm-hmm. And the dignity with which we must do it, and how we are glad to involve the community and all the making it basically polishing a turd, pretty much. And I'm cynical. Me is sitting on the other side of the corner, just rolling my eyes, and of course Oscar comes out and goes, "Hey, do you mean this is the time when you guys come out and start whining about how you don't have any money, and so you reach into everyone's pockets and try to take it from them, and you just go on and on. And this is the only time you people are on the air, and you got to hog the screen for all it's worth." You're just going down the litany of things that all of us were thinking, but dare not say that work there. And Kurt was like, "Whoa, I guess you could look at it that way." And of course, Oscar's like, "That's the part I like best. Come on, let's go to your local TV station." Then it cuts to the second in charge of programming, who's like, and it's not helping that I'm over on the other side of the room laughing so hard I can't breathe. I've turned the color of my fez. And
I am so excited too that HBO Max now has, or no, Disney Channel. Right. The Disney Plus has the Muppet Show now. I'm very excited to sit down and start rewatch some of those, because one of my favorite songs in the world is Phenomena.
Yes.
I know a lot of people go, "Oh, that's such an earworm." I was like, I know it. I love it.
I do too. And probably everybody in our audience is right now going, "Bobby, swear to God, Bobby." Yeah. And it's like, remember that movie in the 90s with John Travolta, Phenomena? Mm-hmm. And of course, every one of us in the comic shop are saying Phenomena. Do 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 do. So
yeah, I what they do with the Muppets is just a phenomenal thing. And good stuff. I have a friend who once used to be a puppeteer years ago. So he worked on was it Muppets in Space or?
Oh wow.
Nice. He worked on one of the movies. I forget which one.
Okay.
So it was fun talking to him and hearing stories about playing with the puppets and being a puppeteer, and I have other friends that do the felt nerdy people who do the sci-fi shows. They do a lot of puppets with Star Trek and Doctor Who and things like that.
Yeah.
Really, really a lot of fun.
Oh, that's incredible. That is so cool. And hello to everybody that we're flashing on screen. Glad to have you all here. If you have any questions for Bobby, please do not hesitate.
Hi everybody.
Yeah, and Rick Powell, I haven't talked to you in a while. Hope you're doing well. And Brian Rahman, Bobby. And Jeffrey Hayes weighed in earlier. And the Historical Fencing Guild, Nick Tockard, who was on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS with me a couple hours ago. Hey, Bobby, it's going to be the spring of snow soon.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
I've been trying to think of different ways to work that in. The one I tend to use the most is and then hashtag the summer of snow every day is a hashtag snow day.
Day.
I've been using that a lot. Yeah.
Genius, sheer genius. Yeah, and you don't know how hard I'm fighting, when I'm reading your stories and getting involved in these characters. You're right. John Salmon is a great character. Seriously, he's due for a spinoff. But as I'm reading this, and I'm trying to come up with an appropriate title. And I keep going back to, I know you've heard me say it, snow business like show business, and all these other things that I'm like, no.
Well, that was originally
the
5th book, which, Snow it's a murder mystery. A friend of Snow's it dies and he's investigating. It's called Snowstar. But up until like 2 days before I put it out, it was called Snow Business.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So coming up with those titles, and I'm being nice. I'm not making anyone writing the snow shorts. They don't have to put snow in the title, but
it's part of the challenge. Though.
It is a bit of a challenge. And sometimes the title changes because of what you're doing. The 4th book is called Snow Trapped, where it's very much a Die Hard style story. They're in a building, something's going on.
Yeah.
And up until I was designing the cover, it was going to be called Snowed In. And then it's like, well, that doesn't fit well on the and for a moment I thought about playing into the Die Hard trope and calling it Snow Hard. And then I said that out loud and I went, nope, I can hear the jokes already.
Yeah, so can I.
It's probably why there won't be one called Snowblower. Yeah.
Until next week and it shows up in your email, buddy. You just wait.
So I figure, if the jokes are coming to me that quick and easy, that other people are just waiting. So so I ended up using Snow Trapped mainly because it fit better on the cover. That Snowed In did not work. Or so
you kind of want the snow in there by itself. I think, but it is a great title though.
And because it then looks off because you got all this dead space because all the other titles have been bigger than 2 letters and so that's the kind of weird stuff that when you're writing these stories you don't think about because that's just not creating. It's not the creative side of things.
Yeah, it's certainly not the commercial side.
Right now. On the other hand, when you work with a designer who knows what they're doing, like, you mentioned Jeffrey Hayes earlier with Plasma Fireground, when you do something like In the Wind up there, which, he made look so much better than my original, the design that I cooked up originally.
Yeah.
And, sorry, knocking stuff off my desk.
Okay.
And so, designing a cover is tough. I've been lucky. I've worked with some very good designers. I've done a few myself that I'm proud of. I wish I had one handy to show, but Deadly Games I was really proud of. That's one we actually did a photo cover for. And I told my friend what I wanted to do, and because I needed a model, so I had a friend of mine. I was like, "Excuse me, I'd like you to. Will you model this?" And because we see the guy from like the arm down and he's holding the gun and he's holding a wheel in his hand too and there's blood spatter. And then the original plan, we're shooting it down and we were going to see a big pool of blood around his feet and that would be that. So we go up and we shoot it in all these different directions of how we wanted it. And then while you're there too, you play with other things in the moment. Ideas hit you. Try this, try that.
Yeah.
Well, then I go home and I start putting it together for cover size, because a cover is, a cover is very much it's tall and thing. Yeah. So when I go and start putting this together, everything's in the middle and there's like nothing but dead space on both ends. If I did what I wanted with the blood pool.
Right.
So I ended up cropping it in a way where it actually stops just below the wheel now in the gun. And those things become larger and it takes up more of the space and it looks so much better. And and we actually used the blood pool on the back cover with we did one in the moment shots was the hand laying in the blood pool having dropped the gun. And so that was just a spur of the moment thing we did. And I ended up loving that so much. It's on the back cover.
Nice.
So, and then, with the design around it. So it's fun. It's fun to design those things, but ooh, it's a lot of work. And there are people
Yeah.
that are much better at it than me.
Yeah,
So.
I will like Santa sign. I remember giving my artist Trevor Hawkins, who's here tonight, glad to see you, Trevor, some instructions on what I wanted to see, and he proceeded to ignore each and every one of them, and came up with a cover that I never would have thought of, and it's brilliant, and it's it is sold well. So I recognize that I am not the authority on this
Right.
stuff.
Well,
And Jay,
and every cover too is different. I mean, it's
yeah,
what like Deadly Games works with that photo cover. Whereas I don't think Deadly Games would have worked had I drawn a cover in a comic booky style. So
right,
see, so knowing that's also very important, is knowing what works,
yeah.
What kind of cover do you want? Do you want just a design cover or a comic style cover or whatever? And that's a lot of it'll make your head explode. It
Oh
really is a
yeah.
lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, and see, and we just had a comment dump here because we have some great questions here, such
Oh,
as
cool.
Brian Rodman, who will be on the comic book show, Comic Book Spectrum on Thursday night, 7 p.m. His question is, if you could create the Bobby Nash spin on an already exciting character, who would it be and why?
Ooh.
That's a good one, Nick.
And that's fun too.
Yeah,
Because I have worked on characters I don't own before. And
mm-hmm.
it is fun. There's a lot when you play with other people's characters, there's a lot more don'ts than there are do's.
Yeah.
There's you can't chop off Spider-Man's arm.
Yeah.
You can't blow up the Daily Bugle unless you fix it by the end of the story. That kind of It's almost like a Star Trek episode. He can, Spock can die.
Right.
But at the end of the episode, Spock needs to be on the bridge as they warp off to the next episode.
That's true.
So I've done, having done that with like Domino Lady or the Green Hornet, those were fun playing with. So those are fun. But if I had to go like characters that I would just love the opportunity to write at least once, it could be a long list, but I'll narrow it down. I would love to write the Fantastic Four.
Ooh,
at least once, or Thor, Captain America are favorites.
Yeah.
I would love to take a crack at a G.I. Joe story.
Ooh, yeah.
I've actually just discovered, I didn't know this, but apparently there were G.I. Joe novels in the 80s when the cartoon was out. And I've recently tracked down 4 of the 6, and like they're awesome.
Nice. Oh, I remember those now. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You posted something today, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw you got one of the $6 Million Man books.
Yep.
Very
and so,
cool.
and kind of this is the inspiration too for what I'm doing with Ben Books and the novella format, which is pretty much this, that size.
Right.
So I would love to take a crack at like a G.I. Joe. I'm certain. I think I've got at least one good Star Trek, story in me. So yeah, but those, anything like that. It's the only things I did turn down the opportunity to write Sherlock Holmes once.
Okay.
Because they wanted it in that traditional Conan Doyle style.
Sure.
And that's not me. I just didn't feel I was the right guy for that. I've since written Holmes where he's in a Domino Lady story where they're teamed up, which I just write that in my style.
Sure.
So the character is fine, but writing, I didn't feel I was the right guy for the style they wanted.
Yeah.
So I kind of backed off of that, but and of course it was a big hit, and I threw a lot of money away not doing it. But again, I don't want to be the guy that screws that up either.
Yeah. Right.
Which is a big fear when you do write somebody else's characters. Doing the Edgar Rice Burroughs adaptation, we adapted. Jamie Chase and I adapted At the Earth's Core, the novel, into a graphic novel for Dark Horse a few years back.
Oh yeah, right.
And it was there. It's nerve-wracking because these things come with built-in audiences. There are people who are already fans before I got there.
Yeah.
And those were the people that I didn't want to piss off.
Right.
So I had to remind myself, you're not writing Bobby Nash's At the Earth's Core. You're writing Edgar Rice Burroughs At the Earth's Core.
Right.
Keep it, you need to honor that original story. So like I would use dialogue straight from the novel when I could. Because, you know, when you adapt something, you are shrinking and shorthanding. And, you know, like they walk across the Pellucidar for a month.
Right.
Yeah, we got that in 2 panels. You know, you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
we start, we end. You know,
Yeah.
2 months later,
Nothing happened in between.
right. So you have to figure out what to cut, what to, you know, like there's a we were working on the sequel when Dark Horse pulled the plug, but there was a part in the sequel where they build a boat. In the book, it takes a while to build this boat. We just had them find a boat. You know, just to, you know, it was easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, I think, you know, G.I. Joe or the Fantastic Four, I would love that. I think those were, you know, and there's more. I mean, certainly, like I said, I feel I got another, at least one good Star Trek novel in me, or a Stargate novel, or, you know, I'm fans of so many things like that, and not all shows do that anymore. There's not as many tie-ins as there used to be. Like, you know, like I know for a while there, they did some NCIS novels. Which a friend of mine wrote one of them. You know, Elementary did some novels when they were doing that show, but you don't see too many of them now. Like, you know, there's not a, you know, you don't see like a MacGyver or Magnum PI novels that often. Although they did just put out a MacGyver that's the old one,
right?
Like a novel with the you know, the original version. So, but stuff like that's fun. It's fun to play with these things that you're a fan of.
Oh yeah, and
that was a long way to get there. Sorry.
That was, but no, it was really interesting, and it's like, you know, I've got characters too, but you know, I agree with you completely. I mean, you know, I've worked for Jim Beard. You know, he did the Conrad von Honig book, and I was properly intimidated because, you know, I can't hear what Jim hears. Or John Bruning, when they came up with the character, I can't hear what they think the character sounds like. So I have to try to come up as, you know, close as possible. And, you know, it's like when I finally, you know, pitch my story to you, it's like, well, will Bobby still be speaking to me after he reads it, sort of thing. It's like, we'll see.
It is very weird. I mean, it's on the one hand, like with these snow shorts, you know, Gary's was the first one that came in. And on the one hand, how cool is it that these cool writers, these people I know that are talented, because obviously if they weren't talented, I wouldn't have asked.
I appreciate that.
You know, there is a little, you know, method to the madness.
Yeah.
But on the one hand, how cool is it that Gary wanted to write this character?
Oh yeah.
And really, you know, we're a very small publisher and we're releasing these as 99-cent ebooks. Gary did not do it for the money.
Yeah.
You know, so the fact that there are, you know, writers, and I think I've got 10 or 12 writers who have agreed to do a snow short.
Pretty cool.
That, you know, and there were a few who said no and they had their reasons, and that's cool too. Yeah. Some are busy, some just didn't want to. It happens.
Right.
But the fact that so many people were willing to do it makes me feel good as a creator, that, you know, that they like what I've done, or they like the characters, or and that they'll do it. So it's, on the one hand, it's really awesome. On the other hand, it's a bit nerve-wracking because, oh my God, what, you know, how are they gonna, you know, because, you know, part of my thing as a publisher of these is I do want there to be some consistency.
Sure.
But what I found is, like, Gary had put something, and it's a small thing, not even part of the plot, just a character bit that he had in there that I liked so much that I'm actually going to incorporate it going forward into into my stories. Just a character bit of something he had John Salmon say. Yeah. That I was like, ooh, I like the way he said that. And he was saying it to another character who appears in the regular books. So I'm going to make, you know, kind of as a through line, it keeps it going. It builds on the character. That's and so it is a lot of fun. And I've had conversations with some of the writers about what they want to do, or helping them. They have questions about the characters that they want to write. Right. So it is fun to see different people's takes and how they would do things. And I try to keep my don'ts fairly small. You know, there weren't a lot of, you know, don't kill any of them. You know?
Oh, really?
You know,
Sorry.
yeah, don't kill any of them because I do want to play with these characters later. Don't kill them. But
weren't you the one that told me on an earlier episode? You got the one writing instruction from somebody that said, "Don't blow up Cleveland. We may need it later."
Yep. Sean Taylor told me that, and I
Mhm.
think someone told it to him. I forget who, but Sean Taylor told me that, and it has stuck with me.
Yeah.
It's like, don't blow up Cleveland. We may need that later.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, that's absolutely just yeah.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so it's a lot of fun to do that. And I didn't want to be restrictive. So my don'ts were pretty simple. There was like one or two characters from the book that I was like, don't write this character, because I actually had one person, can I write her? I'm like, no. There is a villain that
Yes.
I'm not through with the first book, the first set of books yet. So I know still what's coming with that villain,
Right,
and
yeah.
you guys don't.
Right, yeah.
And so it's like, don't write that. Well, I'll do that one.
Right.
That kind of thing. So but it's very nerve wracking, and it's the same way when I write other people's characters. It's a bit nerve wracking because I don't want to be the guy that screws their character up. I don't want to be the, you never want the comment back from the publisher or the rights holder that goes, have you never read one of my books, or have you never watched the show, or and so it's as a writer, I take that very seriously when I play with characters that aren't mine. But I also, as the question asked was giving it the Bobby spin, I do also, when I write other characters that I don't own, because most of the time you have to pitch those.
Right.
You have to write a query or a synopsis or something, which, we all hate doing. And, but also I try to put myself in the thought of when I'm doing it, like, especially if you're doing it for an anthology where there's going to be 15 stories starting the Green Hornet. Okay. I can pretty much tell you they're going to get this plot, this plot, this plot, and this plot pitched to them already. I know that. I'm not going to do those. So when it comes to doing stuff like that, it is what's a Bobby plot,
right?
So I try to come up with my plot that fits, and you still have to fit the universe, but yeah. So and I think we all do that. We all have our certain spin or type of things that when you read it, you go, "Ooh, yeah, okay, that's a Bobby story. Ooh, that's a Brian story." Or,
right.
Kind of like when you watch directors. Oh, that's a Spielberg shot.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So you put your little bit of spin on it that's uniquely you. Or at least I hope so.
Yeah, well, we'll find out. Anyway, no, I'm not trying to kill you, Bobby. I really am not. Anyway, Jason Waltman says the yellow snow of death is coming.
Yeah,
Jason,
I can hear.
Keep that up. You will not be on this show.
I can already hear the jokes for that one too. So no.
Yes, and he's thinking about a Patreon page. Good for you. And
Patreon is a great way to, especially. It's almost a good it's almost like having an ARC team, or a street team, because a lot of times as writers we have ARC teams, which is an advanced reader copy.
Right.
We send out to people we trust before the book comes out or early on in the process, to give you that feedback. They're basically getting something free to read and they give you feedback, and you know that you trust what these people are saying. You listen to what they're saying. And Patreon very much acts like an ARC team. They get stories and stuff to read early. If they want to give feedback, it's there. I did a novel as a serialized novel called Suicide Bomb, which I later released. And some of them, I was like, there's a lot of people die in that book. Obviously, with a title like Suicide Bomb, there's a lot of people die in this book. There's a lot of murders. So I killed a couple of my patrons in the book at their request. It's like, who wants to die in the book? Show of hands. Great. I'll kill each of you. I won't tell you how, so it'll be a surprise.
Right.
When you read it. But so stuff like that. It's a good way to have that one-on-one connection with readers before the book is out, and gives you some feedback, because feedback is great. Because if something doesn't make sense to them when they're reading it and they go, I'm confused. Then other people are probably going to be confused as well. So that gives you that feedback to go back and look at it and go, yeah, let me fix this, or
Mhm.
maybe I can do that a different way, or that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So I think too, for a company, especially when you're starting you're starting your company, or you're building your company,
Mhm.
that's a good way too. And as a company, you have perks to give to
Yep.
your patrons as a way of thanking them for supporting you
Mhm.
and being part of the journey with you. So I think it is a great symbiotic relationship
Mhm.
between patron and patronee, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever I
Yeah.
am. Yeah.
Yeah. Patronor, yeah, is now starting to sound like a J.K. Rowling magical spell, like Patronolus, sort of thing. And Candace Camilleri, who was our artistic friend in Pulp Reality #1. Hey, Brian. Hey,
Absolutely.
Bobby. Mwah. Candace, love you, hun. She's going to be doing my story for Pulp Reality #2. I'm glad to say that's the one. That's the one.
I am finishing up my story for #2 this week.
Good for you.
I guess I don't know if this has been announced, but we'll get scoop my story. I'm actually doing a snow story for Pulp Reality #2.
Oh, nice,
and
nice.
and so I'm almost done with that. And for Pulp Reality 3, we're doing a comic, and I've already written the script for. It's just a little short 5-page adventure comic
Sure.
that we're going to do for Pulp Reality #3. That I've already written it. Clayton Merwin is going to do the
Nice.
pencils.
Nice.
Jeff Austin is going to do the inks.
Ooh, beautiful.
And so so we got I jumped ahead and did that one early to give them more time to
Sure.
work on it.
Right.
And because I know
Good.
Clayton's also doing illos for, like, he's doing the snow illustration for #2.
Nice.
So
Nice.
so that's so that's fun. It's cool. I love writing comics anyway. So
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
opportunity to write comics, and I have the character that I've done a couple short stories with that I thought would be perfect. And so so it's fun. I haven't seen any art yet, but I know it's going to be gorgeous.
It's going to be great. That's fantastic. Well, I love Pulp Reality #1 because all the contributors were listed alphabetically, and I tell people that's the only way my name's going to get in front of yours. So, Rick Bradley has a great question here for Patreon. When do you think is a good time to start one? Since I don't have a bunch of things yet, should I?
I think now is a perfect time. If you have some stuff, do it now, because there is a thing. People talk branding a lot. You've probably, if you're any kind of creator, you've heard people talk about branding. Branding is very important in terms of, even though you may not have a lot of books to promote, or a lot of, not even books, if you're an artist or a movie maker or a musician, you may not have a lot of things to sell yet, but you can start to build your audience by talking about, if you're writing a novel, you talk about the process of writing this novel, get your patrons interested. Sorry, that made me laugh, the Snowpiercer thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
and so we're gonna have to do Cindy, we may have to talk. We may have to do a snow joke book. These are cool. But
You heard it here, Cindy.
So while you're doing your first book, or while you're making your first movie, or while you're writing the songs for your first album, you start sharing the behind the scenes, good and bad. People love the behind the scenes stuff. Talk about it, get them fascinated with, like, not only I'm working on this character, let's talk about this character. How did I come up with this character? Or, you start garnering interest without, and you're not selling anything, and people are more receptive to that. If all your posts and everything you do is just, I got a new book out, you should buy it. Hey, buy my book. Did you hear I had a new book? You should buy that. People will ignore you. I probably just lost you 10 viewers right there.
Thanks, Bobby. Gosh.
But if you talk about it without actively selling it, what you're not only getting people interested in your book, movie, music, whatever, while you're working on it, so that when it does come out, they're interested, because they're invested, because they're following the path of this, but also they're getting to know you as a creator, which a lot of times is really what helps sell people your product, is because they start to like you. And so that can only work in your favor. So I would say, yeah, it's never too early to start it, and you know, use it as it's just another platform for putting your stuff out there.
Exactly. Brian Rodman, who will be on the show Thursday night, asks, "What is your go-to place to get inspiration? Favorite place to write / favorite content to consume for inspiration?"
Well, inspiration comes from everywhere. I mean, there's always, you know, obviously, in the last year and a half, I don't get out as much as I used to. So I'm not around a bunch of people to watch and listen. I'm not sitting in restaurants for hours or going to the malls or going to, when I do go to the grocery store, it's grab what I need and get the hell out. It's like the Terrordrome, get in, get out,
Yeah.
But one of the things we've done during the pandemic, my father and I, we take road trips, and we don't necessarily go anywhere, but you just go, and we like to ride to like state parks and things like that and look around, or just ride through the middle of nowhere and wonder where this road goes.
Yeah.
And in the course of doing that, because my book, the Snow books and the In the Wind book, take place in this tiny town, this very a country atmosphere.
Yeah.
I am all the time in our travels seeing things and going, ooh, that would be a great location for a story. And then out comes the cell phone and, you grab some shots, or, ooh, wouldn't it be cool if they found a dead body there? I wonder what the story, that kind of, as a guy that kills people a lot in books.
I was going to say, who else but a writer of the stuff we do would think a good sentence is, gee, I wonder, what a dead body would do there, sort of thing. So
I was at Dragon Con one year, and this was the year when the comics were in the basement of the Marriott.
Right.
And so the escalator going up was behind us. So behind me, the escalator's going up, my table's out front. The escalator broke. Like, it broke and people tumbled down it like dominoes. Nobody got hurt, but it broke. Plates are flying up out of the thing. Broke.
Oh, ooh.
So they call people in, repair people to come in, and so these two gentlemen were there working on it. Now, I'm a curious guy, and I'm a writer, so I'm looking over because I can see what they're doing, and these two guys are down inside of it. And I went, well, I'll be damned. You could hide a body in there. And this guy gives me a look. And Sean Taylor, who was right there next to me, goes, don't worry, he's just a writer. But it was the
so he's been telling us.
Yeah. So but I always see things like that it tucks away in the back. I've not used it yet, but that's back there. Or you see, I don't know, there's one area near me where apparently at one time there was a bridge, but the bridge is gone, and I don't know where the bridge would have crossed the road. But there are just the stone pylons that were the foot of the bridge. And they're just out in the middle of nowhere, and the woods have overtaken it. Mm-hmm. But if you're riding along and just see that in the middle of the woods, it's very freaky looking.
Yeah.
So I've taken photos of it, and it's like one day that'll work into a story somewhere, because that's just a great location.
Yeah.
And so I'm inspired by things like that. And, obviously people too. I mean, when you people watch, people say things, or, because one of the things that I've heard said about my work is that I do capture, my characters feel real.
Yeah, they do.
I've heard that. So I assume people are truthful about that, and it is something I strive for. But part of that is because even the secondary characters, or the characters that are not part of it, but are in the background, I still cast them as if it was a movie, Mm-hmm. Okay, there's an angry guy in the Wind. There's just one guy that's spouting politics in the diner. And I just used this because we had been in a restaurant a month before, and there was this guy spouting, and I just used what he said. And then I've got this other, so it's things I've picked up from other places, and you try to get to know those characters and, you know, see what those characters will do, and then make sure all the characters are real. And plus, I think that's more satisfying when you do kill them, that people care, you know,
Right.
or, you know, even if you don't, or if you almost kill them and don't, you know, you want to make the people care about the characters. And so I don't know how to just have generic guy number one over here.
Right.
Even if it's somebody that's on, you know, in the book for 1 minute to be killed, I know I still have to know who he is.
Right.
So I'm sorry that rambled too. I'm good at that.
No, it's all useful stuff. And, you know, it's like somebody sent me something for a Dr. Tough Love critique and a few days ago, and I sent it back because I knew the guy. I don't normally do that, but he had some characters that he only gave them first names, and I'm like, why didn't you give them last names? They sound like they're prominent. He goes, well, they'll come back later towards the end of the book, and then I'll give them last names. And I'm like, then why will I care about them? I don't know who they are. They're just these ciphers with, you know, you've differentiated with a first name. And that's when he started to tell me my business.
Yeah.
And, you know?
I actually just turned in a story where there is a guy who's a bit of a not a super prominent character, but he has a few moments, and I never could come up with a satisfactory last name for him. So he's never the point of view character. Right. So his boss is the point of view character. So the boss knows his first name, but he can never remember his last name. So I mentioned that a few times from the point of view of the character. Right. So I don't have to come up, you know, but that becomes a character trait. Yeah. You know, that helps make the boss real because, oh, I talk to this guy every day. I have no idea what his name is. You know? Yeah. And I get that. I have that a lot. I do a lot of conventions, and I meet a lot of people at conventions. Oh, and I will remember our conversation. Yeah. I will even remember which con we talked at. I couldn't tell you your name to save my life.
Yeah. I do that, but I figure it's a sign of my advancing senility.
Plus too, the thing. Our names are all over our table, so
right, yeah, we get reminded.
Yeah. And in every convention I've been to, convention badges, no matter how you put them on, always flip upside down.
Yeah.
So
yeah, or they turn around so you're seeing the back of the pins of it. No, you're talking about your character. It's like that's one of the first things I did in Sandestein. Like I have a passage here. The boy frowned and contemplated calling out for his parents before remembering that boys his age didn't mourn for dogs made of snow. See if we tied it in there. That's what babies did. As the youth contemplated further, he realized the identities of his mother and father were a total mystery to him, as the author of this book didn't award any of them with either names or occupations. Nor could the boy remember what to call his three siblings, nor their genders. He rose to his feet, not bothering to brush off his clothing, before trudging home to his loving parents. What's his name? And oh yeah, her too.
What's your mother's name, son? Mom.
Mom, yeah. So I've been calling her all my life. You know, is there something else?
Well, that's like, and sometimes there are little things that I stick in there that are just that make me laugh that nobody will get. Like I wrote this one. It's like we're at the end, and the character breathes a sigh of relief. Oh, thank God that's over. You know, we've gone through hell. It's hard to believe it's only been a day. It feels like months because I've been writing it for months.
Yeah.
And so that's a little thing where it's like, oh, it's this part just killed me. It took too long, and feels like I've been working on this forever. And so I'll have the characters, you know, the audience will never know. It's just a simple.
They don't know
thing,
how meta that is.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of stuff like that goes in there, or little just tidbits from life that only a handful of people are going to get that joke.
Yes.
But yeah. And then there's other stuff you do. Then there's other stuff you do just for the fun of it that like there are a lot of my books that are tied together. Right. Like certainly I've done a lot of pulp stuff that took place in the 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. I used to have this running day because pulp characters fight mobsters a lot.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so instead of creating new mobsters every time, I created 3 mob families and would just use them. And so, and we're talking different publishers. We're talking multiple publishers. Out of order, if you read all of them that I've done, you can see this mob war going on between these three families that's settled over multiple, publishers and multiple books, where the same main character is only dealing with a little part of it. So I did that, and that was fun. Well, in Snowstorm, which is set in the modern day, I needed a mobster. And so Snowstorm will tell you who won the mob war that was set in all those pulp books. And if you've never read it, all that stuff, you don't know, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the story one iota. But if you start reading like Snowstorm and you read Manelli, wait, he was in or his grandfather was, that kind of, it's fun like that for the people that do read multiple things. There's ties and connections, and
that's cool. That's very cool. Jason Waltman says, if Bobby would put himself in one of his novels, what part would he play in the story?
Well, my acting career is mostly the guy in the background. So maybe I would just be one of the background people working for Archer Snow. Right. That way I could be there where the action is, but don't actually have to learn lines. But I don't know though. I have an idea I would like to write a screenplay for a movie, an original movie. I have the idea. I have a few scenes in my head, and I have the characters. Right. And it would focus on one main character, but there's a secondary character who is his boss / partner, who is there for bits and pieces of it, who I thought I would play him in the movie. I could come in, do the little bits, get him going. I don't need to be there for the rest of it. I'll come back later, that kind of thing. And so I would love to do something like that. Look at me. I am not a leading man.
What?
I am. Yes.
Sitting down. Thank God.
I am never going to be a leading man material. So, but I do love playing quirky side characters and things like that. That's been fun. I did a movie. I only worked on 2 projects last year, film projects.
Right.
One of them was a sequel to a movie I was in before. I can't tell you the movie because they haven't announced it yet.
Sure. No, I get it.
But I reprised my role from the other movie, and it's a small role, again, spread out through it, where like each movie I filmed one day, Yeah. But it was fun. So I got to go and reprise my role and, had my lines, did my bit, interacted with the cast. It was nice to see, some of the new people and the ones that were there before. So I did that. That was fun. Yeah. The other thing I did was I was in Shudder put out Creepshow's Christmas special back in December.
Oh, yeah.
With the Santa Clauses fighting the werewolves and whatnot. I am one of the Santas.
Oh, nice.
So no dialogue or anything, but we were filming. I was supposed to be in it more. We filmed all the outdoor stuff where we're on the video cameras and outside running. Yeah, so all these Santas come out of the snow and the mist with weapons. Like I'm running with a sword.
Oh, nice.
So I'm a Santa with a sword, and we're, and there's Santas with a battering ram, and, and so we're doing all this, and we filmed all of this in Atlanta. It was not winter.
No, I'm sure it wasn't.
We were in full Santa suits. They made the outside look cold and wintry, but it was not.
Right.
So we were in these big, thick, heavy Santa suits running in Atlanta heat. In Atlanta humidity. It was it was whew. But so much fun. There was like 20-ish Santas. And we were there hours before we did anything. So there's just a bunch of us sitting around in Santa suits. And I had a full beard at the time. Sure. I had grown the beard for another project. And I actually, the day I was planning to shave it was the day I got the offer to come play Santa.
Oh, nice.
So if I'd have waited and checked my email 20 minutes later, the beard would have been gone.
Oh my gosh.
And so, but yeah, so they saw, hey, you have a beard now. And so it was fun. We did all that, and we did all this running, and it was fun. It was hot and it was sweaty, but we were laughing, and cutting up, and Greg Nicotero directed it from the Walking Dead and Creep Show, and it's his. I mean, he runs Creep Show,
Sure.
and so he was directing us in that, and he's really good at what he does, and the set people made this parking lot look like it was frozen over. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful done. So we filmed all this on a Thursday. That was the outside stuff. Technically, shooting didn't begin until Monday, and we were supposed to come back and breach the building and do all the inside stuff on the sets.
Right.
The COVID lockdown went into effect that weekend.
Oh no!
So everything went on hold for months.
Right.
And they eventually, for safety reasons, did it with fewer people that were stuntmen who were already there.
That makes sense.
So I totally understand why we weren't called back.
Sure, yeah.
But it's such a fun experience. I love being on set. I would love to do more movies. I would love to do more acting. The background stuff's fun, but I would love to do more acting with lines and because it's fun. I have a blast doing it. Probably the coolest thing I did that came out last year was Doom Patrol.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
was a ton of fun, and had a blast. And that's probably one of the better things that you see me in. Although again, I had a full big white beard that came out like to here.
Right.
And they had me dressed up like George R.R. Martin. And like they kept calling me Disco George because I was in I had the hat, but everything was black and gold, and we had glitter all over us, and our faces were painted. And but it was an absolute blast and to do that. And the people, I got to hang out with the Robot Man and
nice.
And Negative Man, the actors the physical actors, different guys voiced them. But they were cool. I got to work with them. They were a lot of fun, and I got to meet Timothy Dalton. So it's the first Bond I've ever met.
Oh, and a character from Doctor Who.
Yeah, and Flash Gordon. I mean,
and Flash Gordon. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, he clicks the trifecta.
Oh, he was in Rocketeer as well.
Yeah.
The evilest villain ever.
Yeah, and in a comic book show now, he's hitting all my wheelhouses.
Oh, I'd say, man.
Yeah, but he was very nice. He came by. We spoke very briefly.
Yeah.
And but nice. Because sometimes when you're working the background, the first rule they tell you: do not talk to the actors unless they talk to you.
Right.
They're working. They don't need to be interrupted. They're working lines, or even though it looks like they're just standing there, they may be in their head going, "I got to go here," and you don't want to screw them up, throw them off, and cost the production money.
Yeah.
So rule number one: don't talk to them unless they talk to you, and then occasionally they'll come through and, "Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here." That one's the one I always appreciate. Is sometimes you'll get the ones that'll come in and thank you for being there.
That's sweet.
And because they know, because some productions, a background, the extras are treated like coffee cup. You're just a prop. Shut up, sit down. We'll tell you when to do. And then others, they're like, "Thank you for being here. We appreciate it." And then you go on about your business.
Sure.
And so Doom Patrol was very much like that. They was like, "Thanks for being here. We appreciate it." And
that's great.
And so that was fun.
That's very cool. Very cool.
But I know I would love to. If I ever get that movie made, I would pitch me as the boss guy.
That's awesome.
And I like to tell people what to do. So that's
I'm all about that. And Cindy Kemp says, "I used to play Phenomena and other Muppetness for my class whenever we had a few spare minutes."
Oh, I love it. And you know what really makes the video for me it's as cool as the two little aliens are with the it's the little guy running back and forth.
Yes.
That's yelling Phenomena. That's clearly trying to do a different song than them. Yeah. And they're just not into, and so
they're not having it.
Yeah, when he does that bit where he runs all the way to the background and you hear him just go Phenomena, really quiet. And then suddenly to the drum, matching the drum beat, he comes running back. I love that. I can't get enough of it.
I'm with you.
So good.
Yeah.
It's the testament too to how creative those folks were who worked on the Muppet Show. Just hilarious stuff.
Oh, serious, yeah. And the seasons they're getting into now on Disney Plus or HBO Max, whatever. That Christopher Reeve.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite episodes where whoever they were going to get to play but Hamlet or whatever, and Kermit, the guy dropped out, and Kermit went to Christopher Reeve and said, "Well, you want to play, Hamlet?" And he's like, "No, not really." and Kermit's like, "Well, isn't it the dream of every actor to play Hamlet?" "Well, yeah, maybe some of them, but not me." And finally, Kermit breaks down and says, "Please, we've lost an actor. We need you so badly. Would you please come in and save the production?" And Christopher Reeve goes, "Oh, okay, Kermit, since you ask so nice, I will do it." Then he turns to the camera and says, "After all, it won't be the first time I've worked in tights." And I thought, oh my God, it doesn't get any better than this.
Yeah, there were some great. As a kid, especially, that was my thing. It was very great, and it was and it was cool to the actors. Like I remember there was one with where Mark Hamill was there, but he wasn't. Mark Hamill was not the guest. Luke Skywalker was the guest. Just stuff like that, I just loved. It was so much fun.
Oh yeah, seriously.
What was the? I'm sorry, I missed the one. What was the Sweetums thing?
Oh yeah, the Historical Fencing Guild, Friday nights at 8 p.m. on the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. Yes, we have a network now, Bobby. Woo-hoo. You're part of it. Yeah, look out for us. Anyway, Nick.
The podcast.
That's right. Next, it says, Bobby, you have a very Sweetums vibe.
I'm hoping that's a good thing.
I'm sure you meant it with nothing but love.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I try.
Yes, you do. And Cindy Kemp says, "What's going on with snow these days?"
Well, I'm slowly but surely working on book 6. I had some other deadlines that for other publishers that kind of got in the way.
Yeah.
Or not got in the way. That's the wrong way to say it. I fell behind, and so I'm catching up. And so, being behind, my goal was catch up the other publisher stuff before I catch up my stuff.
Right.
And so
that's the way I'm working it.
Yeah. And so I'm working on book 6. I've started book 6. I have plotted 7, 8, and 9.
Nice.
Loosely plotted, but 7, 8, and 9 already. Mm-hmm. I also stopped and wrote a couple of snow shorts. Good. One that came out, one that's going to be in Pulp Reality. So there's if depending on how quickly the other writers write stuff, I would love to do a snow short a month, a 99-cent ebook. We did one in January, we did one in February. Yeah. So maybe somebody will get me one in March. If they do, we'll try to get it out in March. We can't just get them in and go. We still do an edit, a pass, character pass. We do then it's still got to be production wise. And then Jeffrey Hayes is doing covers for us, who for the ebooks, for the shorts. They're going to be. It's real. So it's not a big design thing like In the Wind or the Snow. I don't think you guys can see from here.
Okay, hold on. Let me give you the full screen, Bob.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so like the Snow is a very involved cover where it's there's a lot there. The movie poster type feel. For the Snow shorts, Jeffrey is doing character portraits or poses. Like, Snow's is the one where, it's like that in the middle where Snow is standing there holding the gun, but no background. Oh, and nice. Then the one for Thieves Alley, which is the second one that Gary wrote, it's Big John standing there with his arms kind of crossed, And so it's good character. It's like character portraits, and he does them so well. And the beauty of it is too, we sat down, we talked, and I was kind of like, okay, here's I'll give you an actor type, to give you an idea of what I see in my head. And so I went and kind of get an actor type for each character. And sometimes it may be, it's a little bit this guy, a little bit that guy, or, but, and then so Jeffrey has taken between what we've written about them and the actor type suggestions, and has created, is creating portraits of each of them. And which now great, because they all have looks now that you guys will see that you can, what does he look like? Why, here you go.
Wow. That's
so right now we've got Snow, obviously. We've got Big John, and he's also done a Archer Snow, Snow's grandfather.
Oh, cool.
Who is Archer. Archer has become this the favorite of readers of the Snow books. Archer.
I can see that. I can see.
Yes,
that.
I've gotten the "Don't kill Archer" emails.
Seriously.
If Archer dies, we revolt. I've gotten those.
Right. What bad?
so it's very cool that people have fallen in love with this character that I created,
Yeah.
which is nice. And so we're getting so that's happening with snow, which is very exciting. It's hope my plan was, because all this was held over because I really wanted to do this last year. And
Right.
as you know, we had the apocalypse last year.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
so I had to go fight a war, kill some demons,
I understand.
the usual.
Yeah.
And so now that we're coming out of this. We're really focusing on that. Once I get caught up, but again, I fell behind. We had personal things that happened, and then, like I said, the apocalypse happened.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so there's a lot of things that threw me off, and I have fallen behind that I'm playing catch up now. And so once I get caught up with stuff, especially with stuff I owe other publishers,
Right.
I have plans for Ben Books, which is my self-publishing imprint, or my small, I guess I'm publishing other people now. So I guess I'm a small press.
There you go.
Instead of a self-publisher, I'm a small press.
There you go. You've advanced.
Yeah, I've advanced. Yeah. Oh yeah. More work, less money.
Exactly. But you make up for it by working longer hours.
Yes. And sleeping less,
Of course. Yeah. That's for the week.
so I have plans of how to advance Ben Books and maybe start getting the word out, because we sell, for a self-publisher, we sold okay. I couldn't live off of it, but anyways, I have plans, and
Sure.
and step one of those plans to grow is the snow shorts. And so it truly is the season, the summer, the spring, whatever it is, of snow, because the plan is to run snow. It should at least be one snow something every month. That's the plan.
Yes.
Plans rarely survive impact with the enemy.
Yeah, that's true.
The enemy being me. I am if there's ever a slowdown of things that I do, it's because of me.
Right.
I am a one-man publishing band here. I have people that help, like Jeffrey and narrators that do books and stuff. But the actual publishing part, it's me, and so if something screws up, it's me.
You're where the buck stops.
I am where the buck starts and stops. It's
exactly.
And it never stays. It comes in and it goes out so quick.
Yeah.
But so the plan is to do the snow. There's other plans. I would love to get to a point where I could get ahead to where I would love to because the novellas that I published, the snow, the in the wind, these things here, they're 30,000 word novellas. They're not huge, I would like to get to a point where I was putting out something, if not every month, every other month.
Sure.
I have this idea of a subscription service. Want to subscribe to Snow? I guarantee you'll get this many books a year. It'll cost you this. When one comes out, I'll send it to you. But I've got to get on a schedule where I can actually guarantee I'll meet that.
And
I'm not there
material.
Yet. Right.
Yeah.
But and I love working for other publishers too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to get away from that. Just I'm trying to put a little more emphasis on the Ben Books as well. But I'm doing stuff for Falstaff Books. I've got stuff coming up from Pro Se Productions. I'm going to have some stuff with some Airship 27, other publishers as well in the process, with Stormgate Press, with Valhalla Books, with Moonstone. I've got stuff with all of those that should come out this year. So, and some that will come out once I write them. It's
in which case you truly are the roadblock here.
Exactly right. Like I'm now, but the beauty of how it is, and this is what comes to that professional writing thing, is being a professional. You treat it like a business. When I fell behind and knew I was behind, the first thing I did was let the publishers know. Here's what happened. Can I push this to this? And they were like, sure. So that comes back to, and we've talked about juggling. As a writer, you're a juggler. That also juggled, okay, this can't move because this is the only thing holding up something that 10 other writers are involved in. That jumps to the front of the line. This can wait. Great, I'll stick it over here. And so you're moving all these pieces on a board. and then you start and try to do it, and
Right.
and so it's tough, but it's and again it's on me, but it's also on me to keep the publishers informed and let them know I've run into a problem. What can we do? And your publisher's your partner in this.
Right.
Your publisher doesn't want you to rush and turn in a substandard book.
Right.
So your publisher, generally, there are sometimes other factors, but your publisher generally is your partner in this. And so they're like, okay, if you need an extra month, we'll give you an extra month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but I think I've earned that because of my previous work with them too. And
Right.
if you can't do this on your first book,
Yes, that's true.
but I think all publishers know
Mm-hmm.
that. I don't know if I can say this on here, but shit happens.
Oh,
yeah. The real world will step on you.
Right.
Obviously, last year, the real world stepped on a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so these things happen. And most publishers build in a buffer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and can work around it. So, I mean, but it's up to me. You don't want to not tell your publisher and then spring this on them when the deadline hits and go, oh, by the way, I haven't started on this yet. I know it's due today, but I haven't started yet. No, you tell them way before the deadline, so they're not. They know it's not coming. They're not looking for it, and then you spill it on them. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good practice. I've had to do that too. I worked for Michael Urey at Back Issue Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's, and I had one time where I needed 3 more days, and I passed the deadline. I said, "Can I have that 3 more days? I'll give it to you now, but it won't be quite as good because I had one more interview I had to do, and I couldn't do it till like the day after the deadline." And he was, I'm panicking. I'm like, oh my God, he's never going to hire me again. And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Take a month. And I'm like, what? No, wait a minute. And I just asked for 3 days, and he told me, and I'm not telling anything. I'm not telling tales out of class here because this is not an industry secret. Adam Hughes is a fantastic artist, but he is not the fastest guy.
Yeah.
And Michael Urey told me, he said, Brian, I've learned to put in that buffer.
Mm-hmm.
There are deadlines and there are deadlines. My first editing job at Comico was Adam Hughes. And I'm like, okay, I get it. So.
The very first time I knew I was going to miss a deadline by a few days.
Right.
I called it. Tommy Hancock was editing this book we were working on. And I emailed him and I was like, Tommy, can I have 2 more days? He's like, hell, take 2 weeks. I'm like, no. If you give me 2 weeks, I'm going to take 2 weeks.
Right, yes.
I only need 2 days.
Yes.
And so he's like, okay, fine, 2 days. I'm like, great. Because, if you tell me 2 weeks, I'm like, great, I can take the night off.
Yeah.
I'm killing myself for nothing. Okay.
Yeah, you need to take advantage of my sense of terror here and keep my adrenaline going through and make sure I work it. So, yeah, I get it. Now, Cindy Kemp is pitching hers. Probably the late 60s Summer of Love edition, Snowman.
Mm-hmm.
And
that always makes me think of Jerry Reed.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because of the Smokey and the Bandit movies. Yeah,
right. And please just don't write the racy romance called Snow Plows, says the Historical Fencing Guild.
All right, hang on a second. Got to make some notes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Snow Plows.
Yeah.
That'll be the sequel to Snow Blown.
There we go. Nick, I think you're pitching a book here. And of course, we teased Nick Tockert about looking like a cryptid, and Russell Allen says, Bobby, who is your favorite cryptid? And why did you choose Nicholas Anthony Tockert of the Historical Fencing Guild?
Oh, that's awesome. You know what? I love cryptids. I'm doing this series for Falstaff Books that's a spinoff of John Hartness's Bubba the Monster Hunter.
I love those books.
I'm doing a spinoff of a new character, and this is one of the ones I'm behind on. So it's, but because I just turned in book 3 of 4. So John had a story where Bubba and his team disappear. And now they end up somewhere else and they're having adventures still in their own books. But here in the real world, in the world where they live, everybody just knows they're gone and they presume them dead. And so he had several writers come up with other monster hunters who kind of step up and fill the void. And so my guy is called Hunter Houston, the horror hunter. And he was the number two monster hunter in the South. Bubba got the big gigs.
Right.
Houston handled the little stuff that he could make a living on, but it wasn't that much hard work. He's handling the little stuff.
Yeah.
And he was quite happy with that because I don't have to work hard. And I would write a Die Hard movie in a heartbeat, by the way. Yes.
Yeah.
But so Houston, when Bubba disappears, Houston starts having to deal with these bigger problems. And it really pisses him off because now he's got to work hard.
Right.
And so, yeah. So coming up with cryptids was fun. And I tried to be funny. The first book deals with something living inside Stone Mountain Park in Georgia. If you've never heard of it or been to it, in the middle, not too far out of downtown Atlanta, in fairly flat country, is this giant mountain made out of granite. It's the only mountain, it's flat, big rock.
Yeah.
And it's supposedly solid. It was, science says that it was built from magma erupting and cooling, and that's what that's how science does it, which is cool. But science isn't writing a comedy horror novel.
So it's up to you to get it right.
Right. So I prompt in my novel that Stone Mountain is hollow, and there's something living in there that has escaped out, and so they have to go down there and put a stop to this. And so I came up with giant molten ants, because Georgia is basically one big fire ant mound. If you've ever lived in Georgia, fire ants are the devil. Fire ants are demons incarnate that are maybe this big. This big.
Yeah.
Now imagine a fire ant the size of a Volkswagen.
Ooh. Yeah.
And then I added the molten to them. So instead of just stinging you, they fire molten lava out the stinger. So that was the pitch was molten fire ants, and John laughed, and so I knew I was going in the right direction.
That sounds like something John would like. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first book deals with that. So I've been playing with creating cryptids, or using them. Using existing tropes, and so that's a lot of fun. So I've done, playing with that's fun, and not the first time I've played with horror tropes, and because I've done, we did the Ghost Gal novel with Alexandra Holzer, and who her father was a big, he was the first guy to be called a ghost hunter. And she has a channel. She has a show on the Travel Channel. Oh, it was on the Travel Channel. I think it's on Discovery Plus now. I think they changed the name. But she has a show now where they're reinvestigating her father's old investigations from ghost investigations from decades ago. They're revisiting them, and with modern technology and modern thinking, and so I think they're in their second season of that. So that's pretty good. So I'm hoping. We hit some snags on the publishing end with the book, but we're hoping that it'd be nice to get it back out and write a second book, and because those were fun. That was a lot of fun. I had a good time with creating. It's a fictionalized version of her, and so her and her parents appear in the book. So it's one of those things. I don't want to be the guy to screw that up, because it's like because her father was deceased when we wrote the book, had already passed on, and so I'm like, I don't want to screw up writing your father. Yes, your father became a character, because to me, he's a character in the book. Right. She obviously has a closer, and so it's one of those things. I don't want to screw this up, and so one of the best things, because I researched her father, but I wouldn't know the stuff, how it was at home and stuff without talking to her. And I wrote this one scene where we are introduced to him later in the, as an old, because we see him in a flashback, and then and then she goes and visits and sees him, and I have her walk in his study, and I'm describing what his study looks like, where it's just full of kind of like the professor. There's stuff everywhere,
Right.
And so, and the best note I got from her was that she's like, it's like you really stepped into my father's study. That's what it looked like.
Oh,
But it was
nice.
all out of my head, just of what I knew of him.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, so stuff like that is fun. And so playing with those, so I've studied a lot of the cryptids. I've studied a lot of ghost stuff and stuff like that to play. And actually, the book 3 of the Houston Hunter series does involve a ghost as well. So it's you learn a lot of this stuff that just kind of sticks with you. And
Yeah.
I mean, I probably know more about ghosts, and monsters, and goblins, and killing people than a normal guy should know. And
yeah. That's
so,
why I tell people I'm a former mortician's assistant to explain a lot of stuff. So
yeah, well, and and as a writer, people love to tell you what they do. They love to tell you about their jobs.
yeah.
So I spent a day with the FBI. That was an awesome day. They had the best stories. Actually, one of them, because I asked them generic questions, but I also asked them specific questions because I had written Evil Ways, and I knew I was going to do the sequel.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, at the end of Evil Ways, spoiler alert, people, at the end of Evil Ways, the main character does get shot.
Right.
He lives, obviously.
Sure.
So I'm like, well, you get shot. I'm curious what you go through before you come back to work. And he's like, oh, well, let me tell you about the time I got shot. And he just starts telling me this story. And I am just enraptured by listening to this tale of it was a drug seizure gone wrong, and somebody was out of position, and like he goes, it ends in a running firefight, and then I feel something hit my leg, and the next thing I feel is the concrete hit my face, and
wow,
and
awesome.
So it was but it was great, and so I was like, I ended up using part of his story in the especially what happens after, and what they gave him a medal and or decorations or whatever, stuff like that that made it feel more real, that I worked into the into the story. So but people love doing it, and so over the course of being a writer, I've got to meet SWAT guys, I've talked to doctors, and even in situations where you're not planning it, you meet people. My mother has been gone. She's been past a few years, but she went through chemo. She had cancer and she was going to chemo. I learned a lot from talking to doctors and nurses, from watching doctors and nurses while we're sitting in the oncology and she's getting her chemo. So you pick up things there. Like I joked with her, I'm going to write a medical thriller one day. Because I've talked to all these people. I've learned how to change things and drain things, and so I've learned these. So there's a lot of that information that ends up in your head that you just never know when you're going to need it. And sometimes they come out in the weirdest places in a story before, when you don't know you need it. So, yes, one of the beauties as a creator, if you're creating stuff, tell people, hey, I'm a writer. I'd be curious to hear about your job. People will tell you. People will talk, and so I've met some very interesting people. I was supposed to go and meet with a medical examiner last year.
Ooh.
And get some information that way. Of course, it didn't happen, COVID being what it is, and pandemics do change plans. But these are things. But like I said, you learn stuff, and it's not even jobs. Like it could be any job. People have, even jobs you would think of as mundane have their exciting moments, and you can learn things that you can put those into creating characters. Somebody selling shoes doesn't sound exciting, but they can tell you stuff that can inform your character and make it feel real. So asking questions about what people do is, it's a wonderful research option.
It is. And a lot of people I have found in my own journey that, our local police force has a or at least before the pandemic started, a semi-annual course on how to do police work. I mean, everything from dispatch all the way up to SWAT, undercover investigations, and you get 2 ride-alongs. And those ride-alongs were worth everything. Because you tell these guys, I'm a writer. I want to get your story right. and
Absolutely.
yeah, and it's like, the police, especially law enforcement, especially found out. You'd think they'd be happy with shows like CSI because it shows cops at work, showing what they do and everything. Cops in my area hate it because they said they go
Yeah.
to every crime scene now, and everyone expects them to have it wrapped up in 45 minutes, and that all crime scenes are, how do you put it, are awash in semen and DNA and have perfect fingerprints for you to take.
Yeah.
So,
and you go to court the next day.
Exactly. Yeah, the next
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, I have friends that are like, I have a friend who's a writer. I have a friend who's a writer who used to be who retired from the LA. Like, I can't watch cop shows.
Oh, I bet.
Because I find myself screaming at the TV going, no. But there are wonderful things
about funerals,
Yeah. Well, I know there's this thing called the, I'm gonna mutilate it, I'm sure, but it's a police course for writers, writers boot camp or
that sounds right.
Something like
that.
that.
I've heard of
it's
it.
a traveling thing. And you can go as writers, and they teach you all this, like you were saying, they teach you all the things you need to know. I mean, for me, it was a revelation. I went to a writers conference, and I was teaching a class, but in one of the times when I had free time, I just stepped into a class, and the guy was teaching crime scene. And that was the first time I realized what the little plastic teepees with numbers on meant.
Yes.
Because I'd seen them on TV, but I didn't know what they meant.
Right.
And so, suddenly it's like, ding, that makes so much sense. And now, but now I know, Right. And so we pick up a lot of these details of job. Now, obviously, at the end of the day, we're writing entertainment, and it's not a textbook. It is so we do shorthand things, and I know that's what TV does. TV shorthands.
Yeah.
That's why we go to trial in the same episode.
Yes.
But where in reality, it might be next year before that case goes to trial.
True.
But we do shorthand things, but because we have to. Right. But I do find it wonderful talking to people, finding out what they do, and learning things, learning new tricks, learning, it's just awesome. And
yeah. Now get out your pen and paper.
Snowflakes.
He's trying to wrangle a bunch of clueless people, which probably be me most of the time.
That's what we're calling the Ben Books editorial process.
I feel like I belong.
Because creative people, we all get a little flaky at times. It's just because we live in this fantasy world in the back of our heads, and things like times and dates and
trivial things like that.
Deadlines. What's that old joke? I love deadlines. They make a nice whooshing sound
as they go by. They go by me. Yeah. And Snow Way Out from Lumosia. Now that's pretty good.
I like that too. It's too many words for what I do now, because usually it's just snow something.
Right.
But you know what? I never say never, because I'm the boss. I can make that decision.
And snowblower is still on the table, so you never know. It could be 3 syllables there. And who knows?
That's the Doctor Who crossover.
There you go. Now, Bill Sarden says meteorologists talk about thunder snow a lot this year. Bobby Nash, this could be a new book title.
There you go. Yep. I would change it to Snow Thunder, just because I like snow to be the bigger part of the title.
Yeah.
But I've got a whole list I spent coming through, and some of them have I don't have a plot tied to them, but I have this is a good one.
Yes.
Now, the one I'm doing for Pulp Reality #2 is called Snow Crash, because it starts out with snow chasing someone and they're on snowmobiles.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about the fact that it's snowmobiles until I was like 3 pages into it, and I went, wait a minute. It's snow on a snowmobile.
That's right.
But, so, and I came up with one the other day too. I don't know when I'm going to get to it.
Right.
And anybody that's followed me on social media knows how big a fan I am of Jaws, of the movie Jaws. And so I actually have an idea called Snow Dive that's going to have Snow looking for something underwater, and they're the cages and the jam. I don't know what. The title's there, and I have this thing of Snow getting into the cage, and it's like cage goes into the water. So
I like it. And Michaela Jade is following up on your other idea. Follow-up books. Frosty Gets Plowed.
there we go.
Yeah. And Cindy Cap says, no one knows. He's aware of a problem and can't convince anyone else.
Okay, I love that. I gotta write that one down too.
You gotta, yeah. I'm telling you, this is gold, Bobby. I'm telling you, I'm telling so much here.
This is what I go through when I came up with it. This is the kind of thing exactly what I did of Snow this, Snow that. Because the book went through multiple iterations. Like Snow was not his name originally.
What was it originally?
Originally, he was going to be called Abraham Hunt, and I didn't like that, so I changed his name to.
Yeah.
He went through a bunch of things, Hunt, because I wanted to do Hunt's Bounty.
Yeah.
That was the title I wanted, so his name was going to be Hunt. And for a reason, I don't remember why, but I was just like, so I kept changing the name, and eventually I ended up with Archer as his last name.
Right.
But then I was like, oh, well, the Star Trek show has a Captain Archer. We don't do that. So,
and the animated cartoon.
And so there's a lot of Archer. So I like the Archer name. So then when I came up with Snow, originally it was going to be Archer Snow. It's like that doesn't work. And so then it was a lot of that. And then I liked Archer enough that he became the grandfather. And then I started coming up with other things. And I still like the character of Hunt. I changed his name, obviously. It's not Abraham Hunt or anything like that. But he is actually going to appear in book 7 or 8. Because I do like the character that I created, because the character is different than Snow. He has a different backstory, a different look, a different style. But they have the similarity of the same starting point. So they've met. They know each other. And so yes, I'm going to have him show up in a book called Snow Hunt. So
we saw what you did there, Bob.
Yeah. So.
Here we go. And some more from Candace Camilleri. Snow, he came, he thought, he conquered.
If I ever do a behind the scenes book, there's our title. And I'm going to put you in as the illustrator, Candy. Anyway, Cindy Cap says the point of Snow return. I'm loving these.
Yeah, and it's snow time, says Trevor Hawkins. Oh, and Amy Hale, glad to see you, hon. Was good seeing you on the Traveling TARDIS show. And was that Haunting Scripts of Bachelor's Grove, Brian? Yes, that was. Yes, indeed, it was. And Snowstopper.
Ooh, I like that one too. Yeah,
that is good. That is really good. And Historical Fencing Guild says that Snow Angel could be a great title for when the right woman walks into his life at the wrong time.
Had I thought of Snow Angel, Snow Star might have been Snow Angel.
I could see that, but still, write it down.
That's a good one. I hadn't thought of that one, but Snow Angel I do like Snow Angel. It's a really good one.
Yeah, and Snow Places.
That works too.
Yeah. Jason Waldman read the Green Hornet novel from Moonstone Pulps.
We wrote, they were anthologies. Moonstone did 3 anthologies, and I wrote in 2 of them. I do know that there are some novella-sized Green Hornets coming from Moonstone, which will be like novella or standalone. It's not part of an anthology. Nice. Our buddy Jim Beard is writing one.
Yes.
Yeah, and I say that because he has been posting it publicly that he is writing one.
Yeah, so, he's bragging / taunting us.
That was a fun character to write. And at the time too, research was hard. Obviously, I knew the character, who the character was, but I hadn't seen it in a long time. Oh, wow. And at that time, there was no legal way to watch them. They weren't like we have a channel here called Me TV that shows them in the mornings. Now, back then, the only way to watch them, I purchased them. I acquired them. Yes. And was able to watch, a bootlegged version. Yes, because I thought since it was an officially licensed title, the Green Hornet Company would send us DVDs, but no.
That'd have been far too easy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But that probably would have been more than what we were getting paid for the story. But but I sat down and rewatched the show because we were doing the show version.
Right.
And because Green Hornet's one of those, there's a lot of characters like this. There's multiple versions of the character. And so, because, Green Hornet has appeared in comics, on the radio.
Yeah.
I think the radio and TV rights were mixed together. They were one rights, but you couldn't use stuff that had appeared in the comics if it was just in the comics.
Right.
It had to be the TV version. So we were basically, each short story was writing another episode of the TV show, which means you had to work in certain tropes.
Right.
Let's Roll Kato had to be in every story.
Right.
The coming out of the billboard sliding open,
building,
and
right.
that kind of stuff had to be in the episodes because that's in every episode of the TV show.
Right. Right.
So so you had to make those tropes and fit it in, and awesome character to write. I wrote 2 stories with the Green Hornet, and I had an absolute blast. That was the professional side of it. The personal side of it. Yes. I remember going to visit my parents, and we were sitting around their kitchen table, and I was like, hey, I just got hired to write some Green Hornet stories. And my dad turns and looks at me and he goes, finally, you're writing something I've heard of. So,
oh God, I love it.
Yeah, so that was that was a big moment for me,
Yeah.
Because as cool as they thought it was that I'm writing these things nobody's ever heard of.
Right.
Yeah. This was like, he's like, oh, Bruce Lee casts a long shadow, and he knew what that was.
Mm-hmm. Very cool, very cool. And Michaela J now has some ideas for some stories, probably the Snowblown thing, but knowing her. Now, from the desk of a small press publisher, Joe, glad to see you here. Do people expect photo covers more so for prose than painted or a drawn cover? How does that make or break a prose book?
Oh, that's a really good question.
That's an excellent question. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, go into a bookstore and look at the shelves. Mm-hmm. Certain types of books generally have certain types of covers. Now, granted, that's the publishers making a lot of those decisions. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. But you do have the option. If you're doing a photo cover, what kind of genre are you doing? Like me doing Deadly Games, which was a crime thriller. Mm-hmm. It worked because we had a real gun, with the real will. It fit the tone of the story. Whereas had I, had Snow had that same cover, I don't think it would have worked because Snow is more action adventure. And so hang on a second, I'm getting visual aids. So having this cover worked because it gives you what you need to know. Somebody's going to shoot a gun at some point. It's actioning. You got that. And so this worked better than had I tried to do a photo cover for Snowfalls. Mm-hmm. Whereas Evil Ways, I don't have copies of those right at hand, sorry. But Evil Ways has had 3 different covers over the years. It was originally in a publisher that it was an awful experience, but it was my first published novel. Right. And they had asked us if we had ideas for the cover. And a lot of it takes place inside a state park. So I actually went out into my backyard and climbed up in a couple of trees. And it was fall when I did this. So there weren't a lot of leaves. There were just a few, leaves had started to fall. So I shot through the limbs looking up at the sky. Ooh. So it's a lot of dark, and I did it at a certain time of day, so it's not seeing, it's just shadows and silhouettes of the branches. And I shot it in multiple directions, and then in the computer, I put 2 or 3 of those together, and then upped the black so that the limbs were all black, and what leaves were there were black, and then put a blood red background behind it. Ooh. Sent that to the publisher, explained what I liked. They go, oh, okay, thanks. The book comes out.
Yeah.
The book comes out. It has a light brown cover with Evil Ways in pink, very small, Evil Ways in pink. And it had pink and red polka dots on the cover. It was awful. It's horrible.
Oh my god.
And it was horrible. So when I finally got the rights back to the book, because I didn't, when my contract was up,
You're out the
and
door.
when I got my rights back, I decided to I shopped it around first.
Right.
And man, I had a couple of other publishers that said, "Here's the cover we'll do," and I'm like, "Nope." And they're like, "Is that a deal breaker?" I'm like, "Yep, I'm not having that on my cover." And they're like, "Then that's a deal breaker."
No more polka dots.
Yeah, well, so they were just it was a design that didn't fit the title. It didn't fit the tone of the book. This is how I describe. This is my quick elevator pitch for Evil Ways. Okay. Imagine if John McClane from Die Hard found himself in a horror movie.
Ooh.
So you've got the action and the horror stuff. Yeah. So that's the pitch. Yeah. So you need a cover that's going to eschew one of those.
Right. Oh,
and
gosh.
so I came up when I got the rights back, and I you know what? That's where Ben Book started. I'll just publish this myself to get it back out there. Yeah. So I created the cover for the new one. I actually went into it, the state park it was based on, although in the book it's a different name and it's a made up one. Sure. I went and took some pictures, and I took this picture of, I don't know why I didn't just go back to my original idea. I took a new picture. Right. I took a picture of a path going through the woods, did the same thing, brought up so everything was dark, and then painted it blood red.
Yeah.
And it was a nice looking cover.
Yeah.
And it did kind of give the horror vibe. Mm-hmm. But the more I thought about it, as cool as it looked like an indie book, if that makes sense. And I don't mean that as a slight. Right. Because I write a lot of indie books, but I was just never overly 100% satisfied with it. And actually a friend of mine told me, well, imagine that book's in the bookstore. Does that cover say what you want it to say? And I thought, holy crap, I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
And so I went back to the drawing board and looking at books too, was like, the title needs, I'd made the title bigger, because the title's the biggest thing. And so I was like, what if we got rid of the background and just had a black background? So I did the Evil Ways, and so it's a black background with Evil Ways and then a novel by Bobby Nash at the bottom. And I was like, okay, it needs something. What do I use to fill this space? And that was where my buddy Mark Maddox came in, who is a phenomenal artist.
Yes, he is.
And we were talking about design things. And I was like, I want something simple yet effective that tells me that people are getting killed in here, and there's action and there's horror. And Mark came up with this idea. There's a giant blood splatter at the top of the cover behind the I and the L in evil. And there's blood that runs down behind them. And then after it comes out from under intent, the blood goes into the shape of a chalk outline, only it's a blood outline. Ooh. And by God, that is the most beautiful, simple, beautiful cover. Yeah. So because I was just going to do the hardcover with that, leave the other book with the photo cover.
Right.
I fell in love with that cover so much, I replaced the paperback cover as well. Sure. So if you've got those old ones, they're collectibles now.
Look out.
But also the beauty of his design, even as simple as it is, branding. Because Evil Intent, which is the next book, same blood spatter, same blood running under the name. At the bottom, it goes into a blood outline of the United States of America because the villain is a domestic terrorist.
Oh, nice.
So it's helped with branding because I can now have that blood outline be whatever I need to the topic of that book to be. So it's one of those things where it took 3 tries.
Right.
But in the end, it was a design cover that worked the best as opposed to a photo cover.
Right.
Now, with Deadly Games, I can't imagine not having the photo cover because the photo works. And if I ever get around to writing book 2, I'll have to get it'll need a photo cover too.
Right.
But then there are other things. I think painted covers work excellent in fantasy and science fiction.
Yes.
You know,
well, here's a Mark Maddox
there you go. So,
right here. And this takes
And-
place in the 70s and has that $6 million man, 70s adventure series book vibe to it.
Right, and that tells you what you need to know. Or the Charles Millhouse's Evolution Man with Jeffrey Hayes's cover.
Right.
That tells you, that sets the stage. I know I'm getting kind of that same thing, that 70s $6 million manish vibe, and all that. The cover prepares you for that.
Yeah.
So I think, while I think a lot of it's gut feeling on the part of the people working on it, and publishers have their own things too, but we've seen it. I mean, obviously, if you're doing a media tie-in, having either a painted or a photo cover helps, because Star Trek novels have predominantly had either photos or paintings.
Right.
Those work for them. A comic booky type cover might not work for a Star Trek novel. It's just one of those things, and a lot of times you don't know it till you've tried it.
Right.
And so, certainly the movie cover style, movie poster style that Jeffrey was doing for the Snow books really works for that. Yeah, that you can see the snow there.
Yeah,
and then I'm pointing to it on the screen like you guys can see it, but that one over there, or like the Domino lady here behind me, which Uwe Jarling did.
Oh, nice.
It tells you what you're getting. Whereas I'll give you one more, if I can move the camera that way. The small poster there is for Lance Starr Sky Ranger, a comic we did. Lance Starr had appeared in prose books and anthologies with painted covers. For the comic, obviously, we wanted to do a comic cover. Right. So telling what story we were telling and all that helped determine what type of art we did for it. So so I hope that, so I don't know if it's people's expectations. I think a lot of it depends on, what do you feel like your story needs? Like a lot of times we don't have control over what kind of cover we have. We have what we can afford, or we have what we have the ability to do, especially when you're doing it yourself or doing small press. I can only do what I can do, the cover to In the Wind, Jeffrey did a fantastic job on this. Yeah. The original cover that I had designed, because I was doing it as a serialized novel, so I had made a little design cover that just had the Summersville badge with 2 bullet holes in the badge, but it wasn't a detailed badge. It was just the outline of a badge. And so it was a very simple, because that's what I could do. And then Jeffrey, of course, took it up about 12 notches here. And, because I couldn't have done that. I don't have the skill to do that, or the technical know-how to do that. I can think what I want, but I don't always have the skill to do it. And so that's where working with other people that do have the skill comes in handy.
That is good. That's good.
Right. And so it's also too, I mean, like I said, different covers work for different ways. I absolutely adore Dennis Calero's snow cover as well. They're very different types of covers, but they both, I think, capture the essence of snow and what the snow books are.
Right. And we had a Cindy Cap and
no privacy.
Yeah. And the Historical Fencing Guild asked pretty much the same question. What would be your dream crossover to write? Like The Shadow meets the Phantom, for instance. What properties would you like to do?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. I have a couple that, like, I don't know if they would be good for crossing over, but where I mentioned earlier, I have at least one good Star Trek in me, and I think I've got at least good one Buck Rogers or one Flash Gordon in me.
Yeah.
And could you imagine those two meeting?
Oh my God, yes.
Or could you imagine the $6 Million Man crossing paths with, I don't know, another character from that era?
Yeah.
I just saw recently one of the comic publishers did one where $6 Million Man meets G.I. Joe, which I thought was a very interesting.
Yeah, and there was also one with Wonder Woman and
the Bionic Woman.
Bionic Woman by
Yeah.
Andy Mangels. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that one was brilliant too, because I know Linda Carter and Lindsay Wagner are friends, so I thought that was really
cool.
cool that they're together in that, and so stuff like that's fun. God, I've often thought I know it would be a logistical rights nightmare, but I would love to do something with, depending on which era you set it into. Like when I first had this idea, it was in the 80s. Because the 80s were the height of PIs on TV. There were PIs all over the place. And there's almost always an episode where they go to a PI convention. And when Magnum PI goes to a PI convention, why do I not see Simon and Simon there? Why do I not see Jim Rockford there? Why is Lieutenant Columbo not there?
Yeah.
How cool would it be to have something like an event that brought these characters to the same place, and then something happens and they have to work it?
That would be beautiful.
Could you imagine Lieutenant Columbo going, "Okay, Magnum, I need you to go here.
Yeah.
Rockford, I need you to go." And that would, that's the kind of thing I think that would be really cool. It'll never happen, but it would be really cool. Because I do love seeing crossovers when they happen, I know some CBS is pretty good about that with their TV shows. And sorry, I got a cramp in my leg there.
And I feel it, man. I feel it.
But I do love crossovers and seeing characters interact. Certainly, the DC TV shows have gotten good with their crossovers and things like that. Or and I've written a few. Hey there, Charles. Speaking of Charles, one of the ones I wrote was in Pulp Reality 1. I have my Lance Starr character meets Charles's Captain Hawkland.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was a fun crossover that was, that kind of just came out of Charles says, "You got any ideas?" And that was the idea, It was the first thing that popped into my head. Or so, and certainly in my own thing, I do cross over my characters, like Snow's friend Mac. From he's talking about the comic. There we go.
Yeah.
But Snow has a friend named Mac who is an FBI agent, and in the Wind, which is set in the same town, I needed an FBI agent, and so instead of creating a new one, I was like, I already have one, and so I just used. So technically, In the Wind is a Snow crossover because Mac's in it, and so. I love the fact that these guys do live in the same universe, and I do have this thing in my head about one day I'm going to do a big crossover, and I don't know when, I don't know where, but yeah, those would be fun. Stuff like that, anything like that would be a lot of fun. Like I said, I'm a big fan of a lot of those sci-fi shows we grew up watching, and or seeing Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon face off about get something together would be fun.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, there was a thing a few years back where that Snow Lady, there was a thing a few years ago where they did a crossover with all the Hanna-Barbera characters in a big adventure in comics, stuff like so that kind of stuff I think would be fun, but certainly certainly Marvel and DC with their movies and TV and all of that in a snowbank, I like that. They've gotten good at crossing over because characters move from one movie to the next, or, if you're watching WandaVision now, there's characters who appeared in other Marvel things first that are now in this. And so it plays like this. It's this one big universe. And I like that. And so with my stuff that I'm doing for Ben Books that I publish, Snow exists in the same universe as Sheriff Myers from In the Wind. They exist in the same universe as the characters in Deadly Game. They live in the same universe as the characters in Evil Ways. And oddly enough, Sheriff Myers is the kind of thing, and the town of Somerville is the thing that ties them all together. And so, yeah, to me, it's like, excuse me, it's like having my 4 NCIS shows or 3 NCIS shows. They can cross over because they live in the same world.
I love that. And I'm sorry if I'm skipping questions here, but we are approaching 2 hours. And
Is
I know
that
Bobby.
all?
I know. Doesn't people don't understand that when they come on the show, they might say, "Well, I don't know if we will last 2 hours." That's like, no, you will lose time completely.
I always tell people I can fill an hour just on, "Hi, Bobby, how's it going?"
Yeah. And I've said for years that I'm the kind of person you ask me what the time is, and I'll give you the history of clock making. And from the desk of a small press publisher, check out Joe's show on Saturday night on his YouTube channel. Guess now I'm going to scare people with the comment. Guess you can hide a body in there now.
Yep, it will get you looks. Yes.
Yes, it will. And Eric Hawkins, glad to see you. He'll be on the show Thursday night with me on Comic Book Spectrum. The escalator story reminded me of how Kripke chose the Impala as the car used in Supernatural, as it was how many bodies that they could fit into the trunk. And I got a real good question here. Let me go back.
Ooh, someone wrote Snow Globe. I love that one.
Snow Globe is good. That is good. But I'm trying to find that one question here. I think it was Brian Rodman may have had it, but what is the Google search that will probably get you in the most trouble with the NSA? Oh, here it is. Yeah, Brian Rodman. If the NSA flagged your craziest search on Google, what would it be?
Ooh. That's a really good one. I have Googled poisons and murder methods and things like that. I have I have worked with some publishers that do more adult stuff, so I've Googled, like, wouldn't get me in trouble, but people might think you're weird into some kind of kinky fetish if they looked at some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I already know I'm on a watch list because, or I'm on a list. I know because I had to get in. They had to do all of this background before I could go talk to the FBI.
That's true.
So yes, he told me. He said they're going to dig into your life. I'm like, okay. So I wouldn't snow puns. So I know I'm on a list somewhere because he's like, but I can't think of anything in specifically, but I do Google stuff a lot because I'll be writing and I'll go, what's the right thing here? And I'll just pop over, check it. And the hardest thing I will say to Google, I worked on a Yours Truly Johnny Dollar anthology. For those that don't know, Johnny Dollar, Yours Truly Johnny Dollar was a radio show in the 1950s. And so the conceit of the show was he was the insurance investigator with the action-packed expense account. And so all of the beginning of everything he did started with taxi ride from the office to the apartment of Jose St. Cloud, 38 cents. Mm-hmm. Looking up how much it cost to taxi costs were in 1950, how much airplanes it cost to fly from New York to LA, those were the hardest thing. Actually, I didn't find some of the answers. I just made shit up. But
that's our job, Bobby.
Yeah, or I'd listen. And you listen to the old radio shows to kind of get an idea. It's like, okay, well, if it costs him that much to do this little distance, if we do, blah blah, but yeah, so there's a lot of stuff like that that's weird. I spent a lot of time on when was the first seaplane created, for a story. That took me that was a 4-hour rabbit hole of how do seaplanes work and how do this and blah blah. So different things like that. So writing in different eras leads to knowing how to search for what you want, because sometimes it's the words you use that get you there. And I've written a lot of stuff in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. I've written a lot in World War II. I just did I did some research. I had a friend of mine who's an inventor, and he was inventing something, which I won't say what it is, but because they haven't marketed it yet. But for the outside of it, he was looking for a little story to put on one side of the box. and everything was relating to history and warfare. And so I looked up a bunch of characters, or not characters, but looked up a bunch of situations and blah, 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 blah. I know I wouldn't name him Mike. No. And so, yeah, so I've got Archer and Abraham and all those. So, yeah, it's, yeah, Mike probably wouldn't do. And yes, Jason and I have bonded over our love of Domino Lady. She is fantastic.
She is.
And I'm writing more stuff with her this week, as a matter of fact. So,
Good deal.
but so, where's I was talking about Googling something. Oh, Googling. So I come up with all these historical fighter pilots or war. One of the things I ran across was this group called the Night Witches, who were these female Russian pilots during World War II. And I just became so fascinated with them. I wrote the thing for him, but they get in your head, characters get in your head. And so when Jim Beard and John Bruning came to me and asked me to be part of Occupied Pulp, which is a World War II, or set near the end of World War II, I was like, hey, have you ever heard of the Night Witches? And so I wrote this whole story about the Night Witches. So I got the research come in handy for two things.
Yeah, there we go. That works. Well, yeah, and the story I just turned into Charles F. Milhouse for Pulp Reality 2. I thought, okay, I'm looking up stuff from World War One's going to get me on a list. It's like I'm looking up, aircraft. I'm looking up other stuff, and I'm looking up. I'm not going to say who it is, but it's kind of like the big reveal at the end. But I had to look up a couple of people who were very unsavory.
Well,
and I'm like, okay, somebody's going to come knocking at my door before I get the story to Charles.
Also, too, the last few years, without turning this political, because I don't want to do that. That's
no.
But in the last few years, the world has changed.
Yes.
It's easier to get on a list now, I think, than it used to be for any number of reasons. Like someone typed in here in one of the comments, snowflakes earlier. Yeah. That'll get you on a list these days because there is now a political slang that goes with that. That people are looking for people that are saying things like that, whether it's in, whether you're just talking about what the weather's like outside. I see snowflakes falling, So I think nowadays too, it's easier to find yourself on those lists for innocent things like snowflakes or, that get you into trouble, or, I have to be careful when I do, what words do you say, Suicide Bomb, which I talked about earlier, when I was doing it as a serialized novel on Patreon and I'd release chapters a week, I would create little ads for that chapter. And I had started Suicide Bomb years ago. It's one of those, it was in a drawer. And for other reasons, I had just never finished it. And so I pulled it out and started reworking it. Well, it deals with this guy who's creating killers who then, after they fulfill this mission, kill themselves. And so there's no links. Well, part of the story is first people he's killing are people that were involved with the project decades ago, or in any form, who knew about it because he wants to sell it to the highest bidder now that he's perfected it. That means people can't know about it, and those are the first people he's killing off. One of those guys was a lowly senator, a new senator back in the day, who is now president of the United States. And I made it my own president. I have my own fictional president, but he's the target. So in these there's just one ad I did. It's like, and his next target is the president of the it's the most powerful man in the world, the president of the United States. And there was I did get some, you can't say that. You can't talk about killing the president. And I was like, it's fiction. I've watched movies where this is, I've watched movies where people have tried to. I'm not advocating killing a real president. It's a fictional president. That's the story. It's not political. It's not, because this character is not like any real president we've had. I didn't base him on, it's not like a thinly veiled thing. It's just like, this is a character. And because when I first wrote it, that was a few presidents ago, because like I said, this is set in a drawer for a while. And even then, I didn't want it to look like I was using the real guy, because, one, you don't want to, like make threats about killing real people.
Yeah. You're not Ted Nugent.
Right. Unless, again, I have friends that say, I'd like to be killed in one of your books. I'll do that because they know.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas people that don't know me and I don't want to go and say, I'm going to kill that person in this book. Yeah. So, because, well, I've done it too, but I've done it surreptitiously.
Oh,
so they won't know
about it. Well, crap.
Yeah. So they won't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of that, because of the position that character has, I wanted to make sure that everybody, it's a fictional guy.
Right.
But it's one of those things too. I'm posting ads about someone trying to kill the president of the United States. I'm sure somewhere the Secret Service went, and I've met and talked with Secret Service, because one of the heroes of that story is a Secret Service agent. So, so I've actually have met and talked with some Secret Service agents. So, as part of my research into things, you can meet people and find out a little bit about their jobs. Obviously, they don't tell you everything, but I've seen In the Line of Fire. I'm good. No.
Yeah, idea. Yeah, you're like me. Research means you saw the movie twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I've seen 24. I know all there is to know about fighting terror.
There you go. I'm calling you in the end, Cub.
Yeah. So, but things like that, though, you do get, because we do live in a keyword society.
Yeah.
That's a nice phrase. Where no matter what you write, like if you don't believe me, go on Facebook tonight, type in a topic about ran out of toothpaste today, and I guarantee you within 10 minutes you will have a toothpaste ad somewhere in your digital life.
Yeah.
It's, so that stuff's, it gets out there. So yeah, that's probably put me on I'm probably on a list just because of that.
Probably so. Well, we've had you for over 2 hours and 10 minutes. Now, do you want to take one more question?
Yeah, I'll go as long as you want to.
Oh my God. Oh, the challenge has been hurled here. Okay. We've got Kelly Austin, who was in Pulp Reality #1 with the pair of us.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hi,
Candace
Kelly.
Kohler. Hi, Kelly. Love you, hon. Good evening, everyone. Hello there, my wonderful friends, Brian and the Bobby Nash. A question, Bobby. How does one choose the right words when writing a short story which only allows for so many pages? How do you choose how to progress point of view without hurting the action part of the story?
Ooh,
that's a good
question.
Excellent question. Excellent question, Kelly.
When you're doing stuff for other people, especially, almost everything, like usually publishers don't come up and say, I need a 10-page story, unless it's comics.
Right.
They go, I need a 30,000 word story. I need a 10,000 word story, because, they know that 10,000 words is going to equal whatever. Because, the way they figure that out, it's based on the old style pre-press rule of one page single space typed is about roughly 500 words.
Right.
Double spaced, it's about 250. So if you write, so every 2 pages is 1,000, 20 pages is a 10,000 word story, give or take. Because if you use big words, it could be more. Or if you use little words, you can get more words in there.
Right.
But so most of the time they come to you with, I need a 10,000 word story. Kind of like what I'm doing with Brian, it's like Snow Shorts, 10,000 words. Now, I don't expect you, nor does any publisher expect you to land on 10,000 words on the dot. You're done. It doesn't happen.
No.
I've never seen it happen. I sure as hell have never done it. Usually it's like deadlines. I wave at 10,000 as I pass it. And then you have to go through and go, okay, what can I cut? Because that for me, that almost always happens, because I'm just telling the story, but I also know how big it needs to be. And a lot of times that means your middle goes, and then you start getting to the end, you go, crap, went too far. What can I cut? And that's all well and good. But most publishers will give you a buffer. If you say turn in an 11,000 word story, they're like, no problem. Some are. It just depends on the publisher. But most of the time they'll go, yeah, you're good, no problem. because you still have the process, you still have edits to go through. Edits could drop that number back down. Edits can make that number go up. I'll give you a funny story. I wrote this short story for IDW. IDW is doing, they have the Robots versus Zombies comic that was pretty popular.
Yeah.
They decided they were going to do prose, little short books of short stories, anthologies. And I was invited to be part of this. And so I wrote this story, and it paid X number of cents per word. It was it was like pro pay, and it was this much per word, deadline, or no more than 9,000 words. It was 9,000 words for sure. So I did it. I turned it in. We were told, you get your Bible, because this is a property that you don't own, somebody else owns. You get your Bible, the do's, the don'ts. So there weren't a lot of don'ts, which was really cool. It's like, well, there's no real rules. We're fighting with robots and zombies. There's no real rules. So I wrote this story. I get my edits back, and the first line of this email says, "Remember when we said there were no rules? Well, you broke one of them."
Oh no!
And it was like, there's a scene. It dealt with, my story dealt with this flooded out art area of Arkansas. There was a flood, and the dams broke because people are dead, and the world's ending. And this guy rescues rescues a people in a diner and a busload of school kids. And the robots show up to fight off the alien, or the aliens, the zombies, to fight off the zombies.
Right.
And this guy had been a military guy, so the robots recognize and listen to him. He can, after they beat the zombies and the waters are coming in, he convinced the robots to become part of the wall, and they built a wall around this intersection.
Wow!
Because the floodwaters were coming, and they became this little haven where there's no zombies, and the robots are the walls, and they turn the robots off, and so I wrote this thing where the floodwaters are still there and the water's still going, and there's this zombie that somehow has laying on a log, and he's just floating along half dead, and it hears something, and when it turns to look at whatever the noise was, he causes the log to turn, and the current takes it over toward the settlement, as opposed to keep going the direction he was going. And their first thought was, okay, we don't want anything from the zombies' point of view. So I'm like, okay, so how do we do this? And so me and the editor start kicking back some ideas that added another 1,000 words to the story. And I was like, we had a pretty tight deadline, or word count. And he's like, don't worry about it. Oh, we'll pay you for the extra. It's no problem. So it's like, but it was great. But it was one of those things. The editing will either raise or lower those numbers. So yeah, every publisher I've worked with has pretty much had a guideline of this many words. When you're doing it yourself, I like with my snow books, I try to keep them at 30,000. Part of that reason is consistency. If you write 4 books at 30,000 words and book 5 is 60, you can't sell them for the same price. And that might piss your readers off, who are like, wait a minute, I've gotten used to paying this, So like in one of the snow books does go a little over 30. And so as the publisher, I decided to keep it the same price. I make less money on that one book per sale than the rest of them. But consistency was very important, because I want people to come through and go, I know what a snow book's going to cost me. Right. I don't want to shock you by going, all of a sudden, this one book in the series is $12. The rest of them are $7. So there's that. And so having the word count and knowing what you want to do helps you to do that, and to determine how many pages you're going to fill. It also helps knowing, like, certain publishers are like, we're going to do 40,000 word novellas, all of them. That way, all their books are the same price. We're going to do 60,000 word things. Great. All their books are this price. That helps. That helps your customer. It helps you. It also, it helps us to keep it straight, and how we want to do it and what size we want. Now, when you're writing a full length novel, It could be 90,000 words, 100,000 words. There's a little more play there. But when you're doing stuff small or anthology stuff or short things for a publisher, they're going to tell you up front, this is how many words we need it to be, and that gives you an idea. Now, if someone's asking you per page, says I need 10 pages, that's still doable. It's but you might have to ask yourself, what size is it going to be? And then, like, if they say, okay, we're going to do a 6x9 book, I need you to write a 10-page story at 6x9. You can go into your Word program, whatever program you write on, change the paper size to 6x9, set the margins. You can ask them, what's the margins? Half an inch all around? No problem. Half an inch all around, write 10 pages. You know what it's going to look like because, what size font are you using? 11? Great. Okay. And do it. So that'll give you an idea of what it's going to look like when you're done. And that also helps too, if you can do that anytime you're writing, because if you see it at the size it's going to print, we've all been there. You end a chapter and it's one line on one page by itself.
Yeah.
If you go ahead and set your page to match the size of the page in print, you'll know when that happens and you can fix it.
That's true.
Or, if you're doing it yourself and you're doing all the production, you can fix it in production. But if you're sending it off to a publisher and then it comes back and it's like, wow, there's and it's not even a full line. It's like 3 words on a page all by themselves. I could have fixed
one word.
Yeah, I could have fixed that, And so that gives you an idea of how it's going to look in print, and you can adjust accordingly.
There you go. Hope that gave you what you asked for, Kelly.
And I take a drink after that one.
Yeah, you do. You put in the work there. Yes. Snow way. And Stephanie Nikki says, author Michaela Jade, hi. Hello to you, Stephanie. Hello, everyone. And
I'm sure if it's like it was the last time I'm here, they're probably over there having a great conversation.
They don't need us. We're just background noise for these wonderful people. No, actually, we couldn't get to everyone's comments. We tried to get as many on the screen as possible. Couldn't get to everyone's questions. Because you had so many folks, and we appreciate it, but I guarantee this will not be the last time Bobby Nash is on the show. At least I hope not.
I hope not. These are fun. I do enjoy coming on and chatting with you.
I love it, man. I love it. It's a great time. Seriously.
And we get good questions. That I mean, there are good questions and comments here. So
there are. And the thing is, also, I want people on the show who have something to teach, and I see the Clever Morians here as, they've got questions. We've got hopefully we have answers. Otherwise they have to get it from me, and that's pretty unreliable. So,
I love doing things like that, where you talk about craft, or you panels, where you talk, I'm not here just pitching stuff. Yeah. Hey, if you want to buy stuff, I can do that. But that's not the whole point of here. I made a decision fairly early in my career. Because when I was shopping around Evil Ways, I'd already worked in comics for a while, but I was trying to make this transition. And I remember going to conventions and asking other novel writers some questions.
Yeah.
And I had some very nice people who answered them. And sometimes that answer is, I don't know, but but I ran into a few that were just put off by that. And one guy said, why should I tell you anything? You want to become my competition. And it's that stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I made a decision right then and there that if anyone asks a question, I will answer it. They're within reason. I mean, there are certain personal things,
Oh, sure.
But
yeah.
About the business, I mean, if anybody has questions, I would answer them. Right. Now, again, same thing. Sometimes the answer is, I don't know, because that is true. There's a lot I don't know. And I'm very much self-taught on a lot of this stuff. I learned a lot about the business of writing by screwing up the business of writing. I learned a lot from this is why I don't agree with what he said about the competition.
Right.
I've learned a lot from meeting other writers.
Yeah.
We talk. You know, you and I before this, we were just chit chatting.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
we'd probably still be there if we didn't have
yeah,
the show.
we get to know each other.
Right.
We
Yeah.
you know, and there's a bit of like my family doesn't understand what I do. So if I'm having a rough writing day or if I'm stuck on something, I can't solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that I've got at least 10 writer friends. Hey, got a minute? And we would talk, and I would do it for them. You know,
Right.
it,
Yeah.
we're, you know, like I know this is not a suck up thing, but I do agree with what your title here. Rising tides really do lift all boats, and I I don't see any reason. Like I don't consider you competition,
No.
and I don't mean that in a derogatory way.
No, I
We
get
are
it. And
peers.
same with you. You
Yeah,
know.
we're
Yeah.
peers.
Yeah.
Like you having success does not undermine me in any way.
Right.
Actually, it does quite the opposite because I go, "Hey, I'm proud my friend did something," you
Yeah.
know, and hey, check out what my friend did. This is awesome.
Exactly.
And then I go, "Oh, if that guy can do it." No.
That's valid. That's totally valid.
but but I know I've met some very talented, fantastic, not just writers, creators, you know,
Right. Yeah.
that that are appreciative of other people that do what they do. They're very
Yeah.
complimentary. They're very, something good happened. Congratulations, way to go.
Right.
You know, and it costs you nothing to be kind. You know,
Exactly.
and so I have no problem celebrating when one of my friends does, or even on social people I don't know.
Right.
You know, I sold my first book. Congratulations.
Good
You
for
know,
you.
because
Yeah.
that is a because if you've never done it, I mean, getting published is not easy.
No.
Even
No.
if you're doing it yourself for the first time, getting published is not easy the first time. It's not easy the second time. It's not easy the third time. You get up to about 4 or 5, it gets a little easier, but not a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
because but I looked at it, it was one of these little epiphany moments that hit me one time. It's
Yeah.
like, I forget what it was. Something had got me in that one of those woe is me.
Mhm.
This is not going anywhere. Why is my career stalling? Why is this not selling? But I realized there was a point in time, probably 15, 20 years ago, where I would have killed to be where I am right now.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think I've gone as far as I want to, or,
Right.
I'm still shooting for that next goal. But
Sure.
I had a goal at one time, and I think it's important to set attainable goals. Like you don't want to say I'm going to write my first book, and before you've written word one, my goal is New York Times bestselling author.
Mhm.
That can be a goal. That
Yeah.
can't be your first goal. Your first goal should be finishing, because there are a lot, as many people out there that have books. There's twice as many that have started books and not finished them.
Yeah.
It is not easy. It is, and it's not hard like backbreaking work.
Right. Right.
Ask, people are always saying, how do you find time to write? I don't. I make time to write. There's a difference there. It's just like Brian. I'm sure there are nights where Brian was like, you know what, I'd rather sit and watch TV with Cookie than go and do this show. but
Yeah,
he,
far
but he,
more than you know.
but he
Not
make,
tonight, but
right, but you make it. It's important.
right.
You make the time.
Exactly.
And so if writing is important to you, and we all have things, people have kids, you have jobs, you just have to learn. Okay, I have a full-time job. I work 40, 50 hours a week. I come home at night. I'm exhausted. What are you on the weekends? You know, um, if you want to do this and you can't do it during the week, then you have to go, okay, Saturday I work. Sunday, I'll go have lunch with friends or go to the movies, but that's got to be on Sunday. I can't do that on Saturday. Saturday's my day. And it's tough because that'll be the day all your family and friends want you to do things. And you have to put your foot down. Now, right now I don't work a full-time job. This is my full-time job. But I am a caretaker for my father. My father he's not helpless. So I'm not, it's not round the clock things, but
Right.
there's a lot of stuff that he needs help with so I do that. That does take me away, but I still have to, so I schedule my time. And so, it's a lot of it's prioritizing, figuring out what you want to do. Someone once told me that, people would say, I don't have time. Okay. Now, we've pretty much said that if you write one page, single space, that's 500 words. If you write one page a day, at the end of, and just to keep the math simple, if you write one page a day starting January 1st through December 31st, you have a 365 page novel. That's like fantasy big. That's that's not this stuff. That's a big, thick novel. Right. Right. Yeah. Like Evil Ways topped out, I think, at 310 pages, and that was a full length 100,000 word novel. So if that's all you can do is a page a day, nothing wrong with that. Right. Progress is progress. If you follow writers on social media, we talk about, I did my 1,000 words today. I did 3,000 words today. I did 5,000 words today. Those are awesome. Those are also people that's their job. Right. I spent 8 hours doing that 1,000 words, Yeah. You only have an hour. Okay. If you've only got an hour a day that you can write, say you get up an hour early before the kids get up, you've got that hour. That's your time. And teach your relatives, teach your family. Okay. If when I'm writing, unless somebody's bleeding, leave me alone. And it's a skill you have to teach, because man, it took me a long time to get my parents to know that these are the days that I work. Don't show up at the house. Don't call me unless it's an emergency. If you need help with stuff, I'm happy to do it. Don't call and expect me to do it now. Say, hey, how about on Saturday? Can you come help me? Great, no problem, and I'll plan around it.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff you have to do, and sometimes it makes you seem like a bit of a butt, but you have to. Yeah. You have to. If they see you're taking it seriously like that this is work, then your family will start to go, okay, mommy needs her. Mommy's writing now. We leave her alone. She's got an hour. She goes to, that kind of thing. Yeah. And that kind of thing works. And that way you can start carving out the time, and you can be productive in an hour if that's all you have. If I've got the hour, don't get on Facebook. Don't get on Google. God knows, don't get on YouTube, because that's that's an all day rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But if you've got an hour, and there's no right or wrong way to write. Some people write, because I talk to people that write everything longhand on a notepad and then transcribe it later. I just sit down and start typing away, because you can fix all of this. My first drafts are ugly because I just get the story down. So I'm really quick on my first draft because, like I said, it's ugly. There's no sophistication. Snow runs into the building. Snow he sees a bomb. Snow yells, or get out. Snow yells. They run for the door. Boom. It's simple. It's not elegant, but the story is down there.
Right.
I can come back later, add things. Sometimes dialogue, I love dialogue. I love the back and forth. It's hard to write dialogue when you're going, so I see you come here often, Bobby said as he played with the mouse. Yes, I was here last week, Brian said as he twirled his tassel. Sometimes you just go through and just write what they say, and you can go back later and add the tags, because you don't want to break the flow of that conversation. And you just write, I see you've been here this week. Oh yeah, I was here yesterday. Great. Did you take care of Mary Sue like we said? Oh yes, they'll never find the body. And
Yeah.
You can have that more conversational dialogue that way. And you can always go back later and add in he said as they walked out the door, or he said they'll never find her body, he said as he kicked the floorboard knowing she was buried securely beneath it. That kind of thing. So there's no right or wrong way to write. Write what works for you and then fix it. It's because your reader, in all honesty, the person reading your book doesn't care how you wrote it. They don't care if you did it on a notepad and then typed it up later. They don't care of order. They don't care. What they care about is when they're reading it, am I enjoying it and is it any good? That's really what they care about. Am I enjoying this? So what you do to get it there, do what works best for you. I have a lot of writer friends who write out of order. I can't do it. Now, I say that, but occasionally I'll think ahead and I'll make notes. This is coming up, and pop it down. But then I go back and I write in linear fashion, at least the first draft. Yeah. But then I go, because I'm I don't know the word for it, but I will, yeah, I know, right? The writer who doesn't know the words. But I trust my characters. Everything starts with characters. So it's that, I know people think we're crazy when we say it, that really I just follow my characters and they tell me what they're going to do, or I just listen to them and write down what they say. And that really, there is some truth to that, because in your head they become very real. They're not characters anymore. They're real people. Abraham Snow is a real person. He's a smart ass and he owes me money, but he's a real guy. I know that guy. So when I drop Snow in a situation, I know how Snow will handle it because of who he is. I think we talked about this the last time I was on here.
Yeah.
If you drop 3 characters into the same plot, you get 3 different stories.
Exactly, yeah. Because they're all going to react differently to the
exactly,
stimuli.
Yeah, so knowing the characters will get me to those things. And I forget what point I was trying to make. Oh, how I write. Yeah. So as I'm writing, a lot of times, like when I was writing, and I'll do this without being spoilery, but when I was writing Deadly Games features the 2 main protagonists are a cop and a reporter who are thrown together through circumstances that are not their own, and they don't like each other, but they do work well together, but they don't like each other and they don't want to be working together, but through the situation, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, there's a lot of backstory that gets introduced as we're going along, because I don't like info dumps. I like to Doyle bits out as they're important, And so there's a bit about one. The cop's name is Bartlett. He's Officer Bartlett, and his wife has left him. We know that his wife left him. He hasn't heard from her. She's just gone. And he tried to find her, can't find her. She's gone. And it was just a little tidbit about the character that shows why he's in the state he's in when we first meet him. As I'm going through the story, there's a lot of back and forth with the villain of the way it works out. There's bits where the villain long distancely is challenging and threatening them. So it's kind of like the Wrath of Khan thing, where most of their conversation is over video screens or over that kind of thing. So they're talking that way. I'm almost done with the book, and the bad guy says something in the dialogue that pops a light bulb off over my head, and I go, holy crap, this happened. So then I have to go back and add things or change things to make that work. Sometimes it's already there. I'll find it's there because unconsciously the characters have said things that have already informed that in the back of my head, but consciously I was not aware of it. Right. And so I'm very much that's the one thing the serialized novels, I tell them up front, is this may not be in this exact format when it's done. Right. Because I may get 12 more chapters down the road and go, oh shit, got to fix something or got to change something. And so, but a lot of times I'm very much like that, where I'll get to the end and I'm a big fan of symmetry in stories. Something happens in chapter 2, we're going to see something that reminds us of that in chapter 15, because I'm a big fan of that. I like, so stuff like that. And so, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it's not done until it's done. And so, like she's mentioned here, incremental writing, and it's how you do it. It's getting the story down. You don't have to know it all in that first pass. That's why we take more than one pass. That's why we do more than one draft. Because plus, if you're like me, I write it down. It's kind of like the thing where the bully comes at you and you don't think of the smart comeback until an hour later. You know,
Yeah.
it's writing's that way. I write something down, and then I go out to mow the lawn or go to bed, and I think about something that makes that so much better. I can get up the next morning and fix that. You know, whereas in real life, you know, oh, it's just too late. That was an hour ago. But that kind of thing. And so you can keep tweaking it and fiddling with it until you're happy with it, until it's right. Now, if you're on a deadline with a publisher, that speeds up a little bit because, you know, you've got to finish it by this date.
Right.
But you have to just keep working it. And if you just work on chapter 1 until it's perfect before you start chapter 2, you'll never start chapter 2 because it's never perfect. It's good enough to go on to the next chapter. And then later I go back and tweak some more stuff, and it's still got to go through edits, and they're going to tweak stuff, and it's the publisher may go, oh, we got to do this, or, you know, there's a lot of stuff like that. Or, you know, especially if you're working for publishers, what are the publishers' guidelines for things? Oh, they don't want foul language. Well, all those F-bombs you dropped have got to go.
Yeah.
This publisher doesn't care. That publisher's like, no, we're more family friendly, so those have got to go. So there's a lot of that happens. And so your book is not done until it's in the production queue, you know, being ready to go, the file sent to print. You know, and even if you're doing it yourself and you're doing print on demand, it's not even done then, because I guarantee you're going to catch typos because they happen. So if you're doing them yourself, you can fix the typos, re-upload it. Now it comes off sale for 24 hours, but you can re-upload it and it's fixed.
Yeah.
Did that answer the question? I think
it did. You were talking about process and making the thing happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to vary with every different publisher, every different assignment you get.
Even every different writer. I mean, you could ask 10 different writers, how do you write your books? And you're going to get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got their own, this works for me.
Yeah.
Or they've got some have rituals. I can't work unless it's deadly silent in the house. Or I can't work until the wife and the kids are gone. Or I can only write in Starbucks, or I can, you know, I can only write at the library, or, you know, and none of those are wrong.
Right.
It's whatever works best for you. Personally, I love writing in restaurants. If I go, you don't go at lunchtime, you go at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. When
the restaurants are fairly empty and they don't mind you sitting there for 2-3 hours, as long as you're buying stuff. But I love that. It's comfortable. It gets you out of the house. Sometimes sitting in the same chair, looking at the same walls gets to you, you know, so change of scenery helps. It's weird too. Different places I can do things. My father had surgery a few weeks back. It was a minor surgery. He had his cataracts done. But with the pandemic, I can't go in with him. You know, I can't even wait in the waiting room. It's like, you've got to go back out to your car. We'll call you when he's done. And so even though the surgery wasn't long, the pre-op time and the after, to make sure he's okay, I'm out there for 2.5, 3 hours in the car with nothing, because they don't want you to leave.
Right.
Because they do say you can't leave, because if we need something, you know, it's the same as if you were staying in the waiting room. So what I did was I have a little lap desk, and I took it with me, and I took the laptop with me. Because the first time I didn't, and I was bored to tears. I had a book with me, and I read the book. But the first time was the first time I tried out text to speech on my phone, which was kind of wonderful. Although, man, I must have a Southern accent really bad, because it misspelled a lot of words.
I have a Northern accent. Mine does the same thing.
So when I went for his second eye, which was a week later, I took the laptop with me, and I was sitting in the passenger seat, put this thing in, and I wrote like 3,000 words, because I had nothing else to do, you know.
Yeah.
And there were because I didn't have Wi-Fi in the parking deck. Nice. You know, so I didn't get sucked down the Facebook rabbit hole, or the, you know, and there are ways around that. You know, I mentioned sometimes I'll go, oh, I need something, and pop over to Google. Sometimes you're typing along, and I'll put a big parentheses, and in capital letters I go, look up later.
Yeah.
and or how do you stop an elevator? Like and I'll know later to go back and look that stuff up, because stopping to research can kill your flow. And if you're in the zone and words are spilling out of you, don't stop if you don't have to. It's like I said, there's nothing wrong with going and they were headed to, I don't have no idea. And or if you forget a character's name, oh my God, I've done that before. And yes, and oh yeah, we got to go back and check with Mrs. And I'm parentheses and like, what the hell was her name again?
Yeah.
And sometimes that makes it, again, that meta thing we talked earlier, that'll make it into the dialogue. The character will actually get it and go, what the hell was her name again? And then the other character will say, oh yeah, it was Miss Martin. Oh, okay, great. That kind of thing. So.
Cindy Kim says, Dragon, you can train it, prefers my Midwest accent, but it can wrangle my Yooper and Texas drawl passably. Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of there was a lot of words that text to speech to text did not understand. Mm-hmm. Ooh, especially character names.
Yeah.
But I do find it handy when I wake up in the middle of the night with an idea. Because I used to try to type it on my phone, and I can still do that. But I found the text to speech helps, because I can just turn it on without lifting my head, and I can, and I get up in the morning and it's coherent enough that I can translate it.
Right.
Most of the time. There was one, I wrote one night. There's one I just couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
And so I just laid there and I wrote, it ended up being like almost 1,000 words text to speech,
Wow.
And there were a couple of lines where I'm like, I have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, but anything helps. I mean, when I used to work in a warehouse, I would come home at night with strips of paper in my pocket, mm-hmm. with dialogue on it or ideas. And so I'd come home to like all this paper, Now with technology, if I'm out and I get an idea, I email it to myself. Mm-hmm. There's all that stuff is very helpful. And so so again, there's no right or wrong way to do anything. Like,
yeah. And your process evolves. It's like, if you asked me 5 years ago how to put this together, I probably would give you a different answer than 10 years ago and how I do it now. So,
well, and how you write evolves too.
Right.
Like, people always ask me, which book is your favorite? And that's a very hard thing to answer. Mm-hmm. But I also always tell people, I was like, Evil Ways is the most me of anything I've written. Because when I wrote Evil Ways, I had no idea what I was doing. and that's not a joke. That's true.
No, we all start that way.
I absolutely had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
And there are things in there that I did that I wouldn't do now, because I've learned some things. And so, but there were things in there that were more the way I really talk than grammatically correct, or there were things like that. So yeah, and so you learn things, you pick up tricks, you see how other writers do things, because I've done that before. It's like, ooh, one of my favorites that I stole is like two characters were fighting, like one slams into the other, and they fall to the ground in a tangle of arms and legs. And I was like, I got to use that somewhere. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you learn things, you steal things, see how other writers solve problems that you've run into, and I think we all learn that way, because we're all influenced by other books we read. We're influenced by the TV shows we watch, and man, dialogue. You want to practice, like, you want to hear dialogue. Don't watch TV. Listen to TV. Turn it on where you're not watching it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's a great way to see if the dialogue's any good. Early on in my career, someone told me of this, and I did it a few times, where you really want to see how your dialogue sounds. Walk through your house reading it aloud. Read your story aloud. Mm-hmm. You'll feel like an idiot doing it, but it will. Ooh, man, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
I can't make my tongue move in those,
Yeah.
So Yeah, so things like that help, like running through and reading it out loud. And I kind of do it. I don't walk through my house doing it now
Right.
because I don't live alone anymore either. That so other people, yeah, I do tend to care about interrupting other people.
Yes.
But sometimes here in
Especially
the
if
office,
that, right?
and sometimes here in the office though, I will,
Yeah.
dialogue out loud. And if you want to see how it sounds, I'll turn the camera on my laptop.
Right.
And if you don't take a picture, it's just showing you, and you can see what it looks like saying this dialogue.
Right.
And so things like that do help you.
Yeah. Well, and plus I use Word, MS Word, and they have a text to speech function on there.
Yep.
And that's how I catch a lot of words that they are words, but they're not the right one.
Right.
Where you transpose letters and stuff. That's that saves me a couple levels of editing. And Historical Fencing Guild, thank you very much. I'm glad everyone's here still listening because there's some
Yes,
gold
thank you.
coming out of here. Seriously.
Yes, sorry, I do ramble. I ramble and I talk with my hands.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, it's like years ago. A quick story. Friend of mine did a play, and he wanted somebody who was rather flamboyant, and so he modeled his character after somebody. And I'm like, well, who? He's like, Brian, did you know who I was doing that about? I'm like, no idea. What? He goes, he talks with his hands a lot. And I go, well, tell me. He goes, it's you idiot. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, I get it now. And so a couple years later, I met the director at a function, and she goes, you seem so familiar. And I said, do you remember my friend Dave from that play you directed? She goes, so I get it.
Yeah.
And Nick Tucker of the Historical Fencing Guild says, my wife has to record the dialogue and hear it back. Yeah,
that's another great way to do it. Yeah,
it really is. Yeah, very good.
I have found a career option though where all this helps doing the background stuff, the acting, the background. You have to really, because if you're subtle in the background, it just looks like you're standing there.
Right.
So there's a lot of talking and there's a lot of motioning. If you ever next time you're watching TV, focus on just some of the people in the background and watch what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gesturing and very big movements. You never see people talking where they barely move their lips. They're it's like things like one of the things they teach you is like if you go peas and carrots, it moves your mouth a certain way.
Right.
So because you're miming all of that, you're not actually, the people in the background know they're not talking. When you're watching it, they're not saying anything. We're literally looking at other people going,
yeah,
that's what you're doing, and they don't know what you're going to do. So it's really, we're like talking over each other, or if you get into a groove with people, you can kind of give signals. It's like your turn to talk. That's part of what what do you think?
Yeah.
And there's but those big movements, you help because on camera, especially if you're not front and center, those tiny movements barely get noticed, and it looks like you're just standing there.
Right.
So you have to. That's why you see, if you ever see dinner scenes, especially in a restaurant, the people in the back are generally laughing about whatever conversation. That's because they can. You move your head. It's that movement. Otherwise, it looks like you're just sitting there like this. So so it's a lot. There's a lot to it. But it's fun. But it is really weird though when you watch these things and it's noisy and all that background noise is there of people murmuring in the background, and we know that's not us.
Yeah, because that would come in post-production, right? Like ADR or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Now there are times, it depends on what you're doing. Like if it's I've done stuff where we're filming at a football stadium, a football game. They'll do a couple of passes where we are making noise to record that. Right. And then they'll do passes where the actors are talking and we're cheering like this going, and because you can't really clap. You've got to fake it. And, cheering and so, and then they'll do that one pass where they've got noise, they've got sounds, but they've also got the canned sounds they can put over it. And it's an amazing way that they make all of this stuff happen. And
cool.
Or the weirdest part is like I filmed last year I did, or year before last. I was in the first season of Creep Show. There's an episode called Skin Crawlers, which was written by Paul Dini.
Yeah.
And it deals with they've discovered this worm in the Amazon rainforest or somewhere that lives off of human fat. And they have discovered if you implant it in people, it will feed off their fat and people go really skinny.
Yeah.
You know? And of course, something happens that every 1,000 years there's an eclipse that causes them to go crazy, which of course 2 weeks later.
Of course, yeah.
But when it opens, Dana Gould is the star of the episode. And so it starts with him in there and he's being given the lecture, seeing the promotion stuff. And the lady comes over and brings him over and sits him down on the couch next to me. And so we're there just kind of, and then the guy comes out and gets me and we go into the room and then they get up and they're doing the presentation. And then another guy walks out of the room with the same haircut, same clothes.
Oh,
yeah. So I'm the before. Like in the script, I'm green hoodie before.
Right.
That's what I'm called in the script. I'm wearing the green hoodie and so they had to match me and the guy that's playing green hoodie after. So they matched, like they knew what I looked like. So they had me come in.
Right.
But he got there, I guess he got there first and they shaved him.
Okay.
Or he had shaved or something. And so I get there and said they were going to make him look like me. But then once I got there, they decided it'd be easier to make him look like him. So they made me look like him. So they dyed my hair, which I've never had my hair dyed before.
Right.
So my hair was like this dark brown, which was really cool. And so I needed to lose the beard, the goatee part. And so I'm like, well, great. If you've got a razor, I'll just, no, we'll do it. And so then this woman comes over and she goes, okay, and starts shaving. It's just the weirdest experience. Yeah, because in the real world, people just coming up and touching me is, but on the set, you're pawed all the time.
Right.
Wardrobe comes by and they're picking lint off of you, and people are just walking up and straightening your clothes, or coming up and they'll slap a comb through your hair without saying anything. And it's just, and this woman comes up and goes, "I'm going to shave you now." So, anyways, all that's really it's interesting and it's cool. And so, anyways, we do the scene. We film the scene. It's awesome. And when the episode come out, we were talking about ADR. The orderly, who was an extra too, who did not speak in the show, we hear him say, "You're next, Mr. Or it's the doctor's ready for you, Mr. Simmons." So I have a name that I didn't know. Wow. That guy didn't say that. Someone looped it in.
Right.
And so, but it was really cool. So I'm like, ooh, now I didn't play Green Hoodie guy. I played Mr. Simmons.
That's right. You have your name part now.
And so that was fun. And me and the guy that played, thinner me. The one thing they had problems with was the glasses. And so like I would go in and I'd give him my glasses.
Yeah.
And he was having trouble seeing leaving.
Oh no! Oh, I can see that. Yeah,
he had glasses, but his weren't the same prescription.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun. We had a blast doing it, and we were there. It's a day. It was a day.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff's fun, and so watching how they put all this stuff together is fascinating. And the director was really nice, and that was one of those really nice sets where when we walked on set. Now, I guess that day, we were extras, but we were featured extras because we were in the script. There was something for us to do. But we walked in, the director and the assistant director come up. Thank you guys for coming, shook our hands. Appreciate you doing this. Here's what we're going to do. And they walked through the process. And, so if you're doing stuff specifically for camera, that's when you deal with the director. And, other times it's, a PA comes over and says, "Walk from here to there." So I've done the featured thing a few times, which is the only difference is you're specific for this. They didn't just get you to be in a group shot. You're specific. And I'm a big guy. I'm hefty guy. Right. and somehow I ended up on a list where if you need a fat, angry guy, I'm your man.
Cool.
Because I've played that role many times. Yeah. But it's fun. It's I've got to meet some interesting people. We've met.
Sure.
We filmed on interesting things. One of the fat, angry guy things was we filmed on an airplane. We were on the airplane for 10 hours. Freezing cold, middle of December, freezing cold.
Yeah.
We were on there so long. It was a pilot for a show.
Sure.
And I had a featured role where I come through and the main guy is putting his luggage in the overhead, and I try to squeeze by him and I hit him with my bag and knock him almost over. So we did that for hours. So I beat the hell out of this guy. Because the first time I was really careful. You wanted to just look good, and so after they yelled cut, and he goes, look. He said, first of all, he introduced himself. He was the star of the show, and he goes, and then he just, secondly, you're not going to hurt me. Like, challenge accepted. No, he's like, no, it's you're not going to hurt me. Yeah. So don't. I appreciate you trying that, but just hit me. And I'm like, okay.
You called it.
but it was so much fun, and we were it was a real airplane.
Yeah.
So, because I've been on a real airplane filming, and I've been on an airplane set filming. Totally different vibes, because a real airplane, like the woman that was handling the camera, it's a huge camera. She was up at points where like her knee is in the window, her foot is in a seat, and there are 3 guys holding her, 2 guys holding her by the belt, and one is holding her by, she's wearing like a vest with a clip in the back, and the other one is holding her vest so she doesn't fall, while she's leaning up in the corner of this airplane to film across the seats. And it's amazing what they were able to do and then see it, and we were on it. We were on that airplane for 10 hours. Wow. And I got to set that morning at 7:00, and we left, I think, at 3 a.m.
Wow.
But it was fun. But I was there for my specific thing. But obviously I don't leave after that, because I'm sitting like 1 row behind and over front, so I'm always there.
Sure.
But it was so late and things were running long that like they didn't dismiss us. They didn't like take us off the plane for dinner, because they didn't want to. Because getting that many people off a 747 and back on it.
Yeah, it's a process.
That's a process, and it's time consuming. Right. They ordered pizzas, and we're all sitting in this 747 eating. The box comes over the seat. Grab a slice. Box goes over the seat. And it was fun. We had a blast. It was the director was nice, because again, that was one of those featured things. So the director told me what he wanted done, and so it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy doing it. And it's also fun seeing the creative side of it, which some of that stuff informs how you write, seeing how they do things. Because in my head I see all this stuff moving anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's really fun to see how they do it, and you learn. It's almost like going to film school, especially when you're working on a TV show, because TV shows move much faster than the movies. Movies you'll cut. The actor goes and gets in a car. They drive to their trailer. An hour later, they go back and get them, bring them back to set. They film. They get cut. They go back. TVs, they're filming. They yell cut. The actor goes and sits over there.
Yeah.
And so 10 minutes later, when they're back to do the next scene, they get up and So, but it is fascinating to watch and see how they do things and how decisions are made.
Right.
And then it's really freaky when you watch it, because my memory of it is from my point of view. My point of view is not the camera's point of view.
Right.
And so I see things at a different angle.
Yeah.
Like I was the first thing I ever did as an extra. I was in this movie called Hall Pass, which is but there's one scene, and it's in the trailer, where it's Owen Wilson and I forget her name. She was on The Office. Anyways, they're walking toward the camera, and this really pretty girl is walking away from the camera. So you only see her from the back. And he turns around and stares at her, and his wife gets mad. Well, now I'm on the other end of that, so I never saw the girl from the back. I only saw her walking toward us.
Right.
So when I watched the movie, I'm like, wait, that's wrong. That's not right.
Yeah.
You never see this lady's face,
Yeah.
and so it's like, so I have a whole different memory
Yeah.
of the event.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun stuff. I dig that. I do it whenever I can. It's not something I do often. My other obligations sometimes make it hard to do them because it's hard to plan. A lot of times it's like we need someone tomorrow.
Right.
And so, but it's fun. But I do love it. It's a lot of fun, and
That's great.
I've met some really wonderful, talented people.
Well, I bet.
I always win that Kevin Bacon game because we're in the same shot together.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you're not just one step. You're like one hand away. Yeah.
I talked to him. He talked to me. We're good. Yeah.
We're like this now.
Yeah. Well, there was one scene where something happens in one room, and they all come running out of this room into that one. I'm not in this scene because I'm in the scene before it, so you wouldn't see me.
Right.
And in this shot, so I'm just standing over out of the way, leaning up against like a like a cart, tape and all, just out of the way. And they were doing it, and there was a mistake, and so they yelled cut, and not everybody had gone out yet.
Right.
And I'm just sitting there, and you know how you can feel someone standing behind you, even though you don't know, you just feel them there.
Yeah,
and it was him. He was leaning on the other side of the cart. And so, hey, how you doing? And
that's great.
yeah, it's cool. He was a really fun guy. He was there was a bit where I guess he may be a method actor. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
But at the beginning of the episode, his character doesn't want to be there, and is very unhappy. And he just seemed that way. People were saying he seemed that way.
Yeah.
Stop, and they would go over here, and I was like, yeah, he could just be in that headspace.
Right.
Well, anyway, on part of my gig, I was playing an FBI agent, so I'm in a suit and tie. I've got the gun, I've got the badge, I've got the ID, I've got the clipboard full of papers, and we're interviewing these women who are members of this cult, and they were in love with the guy who we're chasing.
Sure.
And so the part of my job, I'm interviewing, and that's what I'm doing in the back of a lot of these. I'm interviewing all these women, and so they yell cut. So we just stayed at the desks, It's because it's, again, moving people takes more time. Just stop, stay there. We're going to move the camera, do it again.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there, and I'm the only guy, and I'm surrounded by all these women. And again, like I said, the actors are sitting over there, like they're right there. And so they start talking. These women are talking about Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, he's so much more handsome, and he's gorgeous, and he's this. And yeah, and how old is he? And they're pulling him up on their phones. And they're talking about how good looking he is and all that. And I'm like, he can hear you. And they're like, no, he can't. And they just keep on. Well, anyways, where they were sitting, they had been walking back and forth to set, just there.
Right.
They were not coming anywhere near where we were.
Right.
Like, he can hear you. Be quiet, Yeah. So they call him back to set. He gets up, walks right toward us, turns to go right by our desk, and winks at her. And I thought she was going to die.
I bet.
I told you, he heard you.
Yeah.
He didn't say anything. He was playful. He winked at her, and and it was just fun. It was stuff like that was fun, and
that's great.
It's nice when it's cool when you see the people that are having fun doing what they're doing, and some of these guys are having a blast. And I've worked on some where it didn't look like they were having fun, and I've worked on some where, because whoever the lead actor is sets the tone.
Right. Yeah.
And so all the other actors are, if he's all business, they're all business.
Right.
But he's, cutting up and what they're cutting up and whatever. So
sure.
That's just kind of how it is. I mean, they are the star,
Right.
And so it's always fun when I've worked with more good sets where I've only seen one actor meltdown, and I won't go into that one because I've never seen it publicly said, so I don't want to be the guy that
understood. And I won't pry it out of you, not till we get off the air. But anyway,
surprisingly, because there were like 50 people standing around when it happened.
Yeah.
And No, I've never seen it anywhere. It's like how that didn't end up somewhere. Yeah, but it's been a very amazing experience so far, and I've had a blast.
I bet. Someday we'll have you back and we'll just talk about your Hollywood stuff.
Okay.
That would be fun. And got 3 more things here.
Okay.
Rick Bradley points out this has gone the longest. I think I like it. We are the first 3-hour episode of Clever Title Pending, and I've had a great time. And
it's not my longest. I did a show, I guess, a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And they said, we'll just keep talking until you're done. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, and I finally looked down at the clock and I'm like, you guys realize we've been doing this for 5 hours, right?
Wow.
They just kept asking questions.
Yeah.
And I'm finally like, I'm hungry. I think we're about done.
Yeah. Yeah, and Brian Rodman's calling this Clever Title Pending the extended cut. I dig it. Yeah, this is the director's edition here.
The title of this episode is Bobby Nash Won't Shut Up.
As far as I'm concerned, man, you can talk all night. I may not be here, but you can talk all night. And now, the Historical Fencing Guild, of course, has a question. Now, do you want to take this? He has a question. He has a question as a customer. I am finding my historical fencing manual is being used by authors to help choreograph fights. I tell people it's how you can learn to kill people safely.
Mm-hmm.
What resources as an author do you wish were available?
Ooh, do I wish were available? That's a good one.
I
do research. I mean, if you're, there are not every fight is the same way. Sometimes the location plays a factor. Evil Intent or Evil Ways, a part of it takes place at state park, which is based on the state park that I live like a mile from.
Mm-hmm.
And it also appears briefly in The Wind. When I was writing those scenes and I had plotted those scenes, I based them on real locations in the park, and I went and walked it. I went and walked the scene. So, okay, he's here, he's shooting from there, this happens here, and I walked it, and I saw how it would play if it was really happening.
Right.
So stuff like that helps. I have read books on weapons and fighting techniques, and this is where your having go-to people helps. Because again, just like different writers do it different ways, different people fight different ways. How a SWAT guy handles a problem might be different than how a patrol officer handles things. Might be different than how a guy who knows how to use a sword would handle things. Different ages. I don't run and tackle like I used to. Hell, I don't run at all like I used to. That kind of thing. So a lot of it goes back to that people watching, seeing how people go, how people move, and again, movies and TV are good for that too.
Yeah.
You watch Bruce Lee do a fight. How does he do that? Study what he does, especially if you're writing Kato,
Mm-hmm.
How does Kato fight? How does and you can get different ideas. You can, or you can meet people who, take martial arts and ask them, how would you do this? And, so again, it goes back to that silly thing where you can practice it, play it out. Somebody hit me. How would I hit the floor? Throw yourself on the floor, safely, but, so there's a lot of things like that. So, yeah. And I do know that there are classes and there are panels at convention of how to fights and writers conferences, how to whatever, how to shoot a gun, how to sword fight. I've seen that one at conventions, how to, the things like that. And so you can pick up a lot of things. You can also get to know people that are like, that's where your research comes in and get to know people. I'd call up a friend of mine who was a cop and say, how far would you chase somebody before you just said, oh, the hell with it, I'll catch them later?
Yeah. That's a good question.
I used to work in a restaurant when I was much younger. And there was a cop that would come in every night. And we just fed him for free because, hey, he's in here every night. We feel pretty safe.
Sure.
And so we were talking one night, just sitting there, slow night, shooting the breeze. And somebody said something about, what do you do if if you're chasing somebody and they get away? He says, in a town this small, I'll see you again.
Yeah. That's
So,
true.
and that always stuck with me. And I plan to use that in a Sheriff Myers book. It's like, in a town this small. Yeah. It's like in The Wind, there are two villains. They're not the main villains, but there are two guys who have been, because they've hired a lot of people to find this missing witness. And these two guys find him, and they're holding him against his will, and they're trying to get him back to. And when the cops run across these guys, they already know who they are, and they already know they're not world-class criminals. They're criminals that aren't very good at it because they get caught a lot. So the cops know who they are.
Right.
So it's like they're on a first name basis. One of the deputy shows up and calls the guy by name because he knows him. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to lock you up now. Okay. So sometimes, cops and criminals know each other. And, because I used to, as a kid, that used to bug me as a kid, the Dukes of Hazzard was a big thing when I was a kid. And it used to bug me. The cops are always trying to arrest these guys, but they know where they live. Yeah. Why don't they just go to their house and arrest them? Right. Now I get it. That kills the mystique of the show. I get it. But it's not like they didn't know where they lived. They didn't know where they worked. They didn't know how to find them. It's just, we're trying to arrest them this episode. Next week, we don't care. But yeah, so having those resources, books are great. The internet's great. You can always find videos on fighting stances. You can find videos on how to throw a punch. You can find videos on how to flip someone over your shoulder, that kind of thing. Yeah. What I wish they would write.
He's looking to fill that void, perhaps, if there's something as far as research material goes.
Certainly, I think.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Look at the tropes of, if you're just looking at books, or if you're looking at movies, or whatever. There are tropes. We write some of the same things. There are certain ways we just do things. Yeah. Look at the ones that aren't physically right, I guess, or kind of like what Mythbusters does. You can't shoot a lock off a door. That doesn't really work well.
Yeah.
But it's still a movie trope. It's done all the time. I would say look at the tropes of fights and fight choreography. And the one I hear all the time is, great. The hero, Arrow is facing off against 10 guys and they attack him one at a time. Yeah. Put a book together put something together that shows how to fight 10 guys where they're not coming at you one at a time. Things like that, things that you see in movies and TV or books or comics that go, that just isn't how it works, or that doesn't work right. Because there are tropes like that we do that, and there are some that drive me crazy. The biggest one that drives me crazy, it's not a fight thing, but it's like the hero's got 2 bullets left. Mm-hmm. And he uses those 2 bullets to kill those 2 guys with machine guns. And he doesn't go pick up the machine gun. Because now he's not out of bullets.
Yeah.
And if you don't want him to have bullets, you have to come up with creative ways for him not to get the book, because he goes for them and more bad guys show up before he can get there. Okay, I'll buy that. But how many times have we seen that where it's like, I'm down to my last 2 bullets, bang, bang, those guys fall, and he goes, yeah, I'm still out of bullets, and walks away, leaving guns on the ground with bullets in them. Right. Tropes, it happens. Fight scenes are that way. There are a lot of fight scenes that look exactly the same, from show to show. I would say if you could find a way to show how to, excuse me, not only choreograph a fight scene, but how to choreograph it for entertainment purposes. Mm-hmm. Punching someone in the face isn't, depending on how you do it, is not exciting. You can punch one way and it's just like boom, boom, and you're done. But in movies and TV, we draw back, In the real world, I would get hit before I threw that punch.
Yeah.
But in a movie, how many times have we seen John Wayne go,
Yeah.
These are
that's for the benefit of the guy he's hitting.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a TV thing, where it's, it's choreography. So I think if you were to do stuff like that and explain why they're done that way, and give alternatives. If you don't want to do it, what's another way to do it? And I think you could probably come up with some interesting things that way that would be beneficial, I think, to writers, not only writers, to artists who are in comics, artists having to draw fight scenes. Man, how do you draw a fight scene and make it exciting? Show different angles,
Yeah.
I know there's a wooden figure that a lot of artists use where they can pose it
Right.
to get at least the figure, and you can try different camera angles, as it were, and so different things like that. I think showing people how to do it, because a lot of times it's just they punched each other, and you have to come up with different. And it's hard too, especially if you're doing a very action-heavy book. You don't want to keep repeating the same phrases. That tangle of arms and legs I mentioned earlier works, but if I do it 5 times in the same book, it gets old.
Right.
And so you have to come up with different ways of writing a fight scene, different ways of choreographing it, different ways to make it and still make it exciting. You can only dive for cover so many times, a certain way, where you need to come up with a different way to describe how you dive for cover.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So yeah. But I think there's a if you can do something with pictures and illustrations and so it's not just for writers, but it's for artists, it's for actors, for people that want to learn how to do a good fight, how to do a good cinematic fight. I think you could do that, and it would show people some ideas of how to do that. And it's also a book you could keep revisiting. We've come up with new tropes. Everybody's doing it this way now. We've come up with some new ones. Here you go. Yeah.
There you
and
go.
So you could have multiple volumes over years.
There you go.
I hope that helped.
I think it did. And make sure Bobby gets copies of those books, because
absolutely. I'll write the foreword for you.
Take him up on it. Oh my God. Do it before this man comes to his senses. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I want to get rid of the trope where I saw this the other day on some old TV show where there's a gunfight in like a living room and somebody gets behind an obviously cheap chair, and
when they get behind the couch and you see the stuffing flying everywhere, and I was like, that stuffing doesn't stop bullets.
No, it doesn't. No.
Like, I actually have a scene in Evil Intent where that happens. They kick in a door, and a guy comes up with a shotgun, and they dive. The character dives behind the couch, but he doesn't do this thing where he's crouched. He's like, I want to be as flat to the floor as possible.
Yes.
Because they're shooting the top of the couch,
Right.
Whereas the couch doesn't survive this, and so he's trying to make himself as small as possible, because above him bullets are whizzing past his head.
Right. Or you get. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I have to be careful, especially like my first draft. I said it's ugly. You repeat yourself a lot in your first draft.
Yeah.
You can't do that as much in the subsequent drafts, because editors, that's one of the first thing is you repeated yourself, and hell, it can just be words sometimes, and so repetition is not always good in prose because they want it to, you're using this word too much. And, and you can argue it if you want, but most times it's like, okay, I'll change it. That's why they make thesauruses.
Exactly.
But things like that too, you can, especially if you're writing a book that's going to have multiple actions in it. And like snow books are there's a lot of action in these things.
There are.
And so I have to come up with unique ways and new ways of doing that action that's not just Snow punched him in the face, and it has to work both ways, because Snow's not the only one in this fight. He's fighting a guy who is punching back, or, so I like to do things too. And plus the Snow books, as I've said many times, are my love letter to the PI shows of the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And if you look back at 70s and 80s TV, they were very much showcases for stunt players, because they would have these big elaborate fights and chase scenes that allowed these stunt people to get out there and do what they do. And so I like doing things like that in my books, like in Snowstorm, Snow and his buddy uh, uh, Samson go back to Samson's hotel room, and there's guys ransacking it, and so they're fighting in a hotel room. So someone gets thrown over the bed. It's not just punch, punch, punch. It's like there's a bed there. There's not a lot of room in a hotel room, too, especially in a cheap hotel. There's not a lot of leg room to work. So yeah, if you step the wrong way, you've tripped over the bed. And so they're getting thrown around, and I like to throw people against walls, and I've done the thing. The one I use a lot that I try to watch myself is the punch in the nose. Where the nose breaks and blood goes up. I found myself realizing, I was like, I've already written that a few times. I need to stop, or I need not use it as often. And because it's, while it's effective, if I do it in 5 different books, people are like, he needs a new move.
Yeah.
And so, but and you are welcome. I'm very happy. I just reading the comments. Sorry. And
it's all right.
But yes, I hope that was very helpful. And I think there's a lot of resources that creators just you have to search for so much stuff. And I think there are a lot of how-to things I think creators could use to learn, whether it's on a website or in a book. Or
there you go. Yeah. And Nick, I'll help you out. I won't write your foreword, so I think it's the best thing I can do for you, brother.
Brian will write the cover blurb.
There we go. I can do that. I rocket cover blurbs. So.
This is the best book not written by me, Brian K. Morris.
Exactly. Buy 2 copies. And I'll probably wind up misspelling my own name. But anyway, thank you, Bobby. Thank you so much for a record-breaking episode of Clever
My
Titles.
pleasure.
Totally, my pleasure too. I love having you on here. It's always a delight to talk.
Now, see, if this was a book, the editor would be pissed because we went way over the word count.
I know. Yeah, you didn't see it, but I got a dirty look from Cookie when she came in. So
tell her I'm sorry.
I will. She'll take it from you. No, I, on the other hand,
it's all my fault.
No, she knows it's mine because I'm just fanboying here. But anyway, what we'll do, I think we will close out the show finally. And
right.
Bobby,
well, let me just say, if there were any questions we didn't get to, or if you think of questions later, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. Shoot me a question. I will, if I know the answer, I will answer it.
There we go. And Cindy Kep's first draft said bobblehead characters. There's a whole lot of nodding. Yeah, and a lot of my characters make their way from one place to another. Historical fencing.
Mine turn a lot.
Mine turns on their heel. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I've built up my own store of cliches in my own work. And I love the old 80s fight scenes. Though if there's one trope I hate is when 2 people of radically different build and background. Okay.
Unless you have a story reason to make that work.
Yeah. Oh, and they fight just
they fight the same. Yeah.
Well, that's annoying as hell. You're absolutely right, Nick. And Jason Waldman, thank you for sticking with us this whole time. Just enjoy listening, Bobby, to learn the award and pitfall of writing.
The awards are not. The awards are cool when they happen, but yeah, I know more about the pitfalls. Like I said, I've learned most of this stuff by having screwed most of this stuff up at least once.
Yeah. My only award is from not killing a person, so it's like my lack of participation award.
I actually did. I did win a couple there on the show.
I know you have one. That's why I listed you as an award-winning person. And yes, 3.5 hours. I'm telling you. And Cindy Kep says, "Great fun had by all. Thanks for hosting the adventure, Cindy. CKOEPB.com. Sign up for her great newsletter. Thank you, Cindy, for sticking around." And Jeff Hayes, go for 4. Go for 4.
We could probably do it.
We could, yeah.
Ryan might be divorced.
This end of the side of the screen would be totally blank because she'd be out dismembering me.
Well, I was kind of worried because I know you did a podcast right before ours. I'm like, Brian's going to get on there and not want to say anything.
Yeah, no. I don't have that problem. And by the way, stay tuned. We'll be on with the next episode of Nevermind the Furthermore in just a few minutes.
I'm only the first guest for the night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like a talk show. He's got 3 more lined up. Yeah.
Oh, we are getting punchy. And next time, maybe. Yeah, Jason, we could hear that. And what did I hear my honey? No, I didn't. No, she's. I'm hearing her in my head. I think. So anyway, so Bobby, once again, thank you, brother. I appreciate you being on. It's always a blast having you on here.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I always enjoy coming on here. You get great questions. I love that.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you have this too. You get the same questions a lot. So there have been some very new ones in here. And so, but I love talking about, like, you don't get in a regular interview the nuts and bolts of creating things, and I love that. And so those are the kind of questions I get here, and so I love that. And
super.
So yeah, it's fun. I love hanging out with you, man. It's I would do it even if you weren't recording it. So.
Yeah, same here. And one of these times we're going to get to a convention. I'm taking you out to dinner. And we're just going to close the place down.
Oh,
and
man, it'll be so nice to be doing conventions again.
I'm looking forward to it. I really am.
I'm ready to see other people.
I am too. Even if I have to wear a mask and a face shield, I'm just ready for something else. And Cookie's hanging around the corner with a bat. Probably. And Jason apparently wants to be on this show. And like I said before the show, my first thought is, what's wrong with you, man? You okay?
Aim high. Yeah.
Yeah, really. It's like, you sure about this? No,
it's only downhill from here.
Exactly.
We're at the top of the hill, so it's
That's right. Nowhere to go but down. But no, and that's the one thing I do get people occasionally who are referred to the show saying, I'd like to be on for whatever reason, and if they're interesting, I'll bring them on.
I have sent some people your way.
And I appreciate it. I do want to thank you for that. I do want to thank you. But it's like the first thing I do is I tell them, watch the show first, decide if this is, it's like Cialis. Find out if this is right for you. And if the show goes for 4 hours, call a physician.
Well, but it is fun. I mean, it's a very relaxed style. It's very, and I like that. That's always better than just question, answer. We do have, there is a lot more chatting. I prefer chatting style interviews anyway. So there's a lot of that. But like I say, but we get good questions about the work we do and how to do it. And I love those kind of things. And
I do too.
It's almost like doing a panel about, writing.
Yeah, and taking questions from the audience. This is kind of what I styled this show to be. So it's minimal me, but we get the people. And is Nexus right for you? It kind of reminds me of I think it was Adult Swim, where they had one of those Mego character things, but it was Our Man from the Justice Society of America, and having trouble in bed, I have this new pill, Miraculo, and of course, the guy turns into like a Superman in the sack, and at the end, there's Our Man, doing this thing, and then the voiceover is like, if you turn into 4 Hour Man, be sure to consult a physician. Yes, this show's gone to hell. And Historical Films, Brian, you'll be getting an advanced digital copy of my Axe manual. If it gets to Bobby too, well, nothing can be done. Okay. Yeah, it's true. I could do that. And Trevor Hawkins, thank you for being here, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you all for sticking around. And it's approaching 4 hours, so I'll call. What's the number for 911? Just tell them to come in here and ask for Officer. That's the man. But anyway, Bobby,
the pending and clever title pending just keeps getting longer.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And by the time 10 o'clock rolls around tomorrow morning, we won't mind never. But anyway, Bobby, again, thank you so much. I'm going to give you the spotlight here and tell these people where they can follow you. Of course, we've got a couple things on the board there. So, but tell people how they can keep up with you.
Okay. Well, BobbyNash.com is kind of the hub of all things me. Patreon.com/Bobby Nash is my Patreon. Feel free to check that out. Ben-Books, BEN-Books.com is my small press publisher. I've been having to make sure I spell it because I've had several people go, Bain, or you're part of Bain Books, and with all the stuff going on with them. No, I'm not. It's a different story, but it's BEN, which is my initials. Bobby E. Nash is my benbooks.com. abrahamsnow.com is for all things snow. I'm on Facebook at author Bobby Nash. I am on Twitter at Bobby Nash, and I am on Instagram at Bobby Nash Writes. And like I said, if you have more questions, feel free to hit me up at any of those places. I will respond. It may take me a day, but I will respond to all those. And yeah.
Fantastic. As always, Bobby, thank you so much. I really can't
My
thank you.
pleasure. This was fun. I had a great time, and
so did I.
And I look forward to sharing this again tomorrow. And people go, 3 hours.
Actually, now more than 3.5.
And
they used to tell us, that this sort of business isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. Well, we are proving this is a marathon. In fact, this may be the longest show I've ever done. You have
glad I could be there for you.
Oh, thank you, brother. You make this a joy.
It's the thing. It's like, doesn't that guy ever shut up?
Well, yeah, and it didn't help that I'm here. Yeah. I'm either encouraging you or I'm adding to it. So one or the other.
When I was much younger, I was very shy. Like I wouldn't have been able to do this when I was much younger.
So was I.
And so it used to be people were always like, "You should talk more. You should talk more." And now they're like, "Will you shut up?"
my father. There's that under your tongue. There's that little flap of skin. That kind of holds the tongue in place. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess when I was very young, I had kind of a speech impediment, and my doctor figured out if we clip that little bit of tissue there, it'll give the tongue more freedom and everything. And my father always used to say, that doctor cut too much. But I tell people I'm like Donkey, from Shrek. Getting me to talk isn't the issue; it's getting me to shut up. So, fuel for the fire. Thanks, Jason. We'll have to talk about you being on the show sometime. But anyway, Bobby, again, thank you. I'm going to mute you and put you in the background here.
All right.
We'll close out the show. Give homage to our sponsors tonight: Plasma Fire Graphics and monarchpublishing.net. Thank you both for your sponsoring of this show. And no, it doesn't help at all. So we're going to start ignoring everyone from this point on except us. So anyway, Bobby, putting you in the background and stick around so I can say goodnight to you properly, my friend.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you very much, Bobby Nash. Please check out his work at those the places I'm pointing at: BobbyNash.com, Patreon.com/Bobby Nash. And remember, but it doesn't matter what the weather is like outside. Hashtag it's always the summer snow. So anyway, let me get that down there. There we go. This is such a slick production. Anyway, as always, thank you for being here. And if you want to follow what I'm doing, go to risingtide.pub, sign up for my free monthly newsletter. I would appreciate that very much. Also, we are on Facebook and also the Rising Tide. Let me get to that page. Oh, we got it already. Anyway, the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. We are a proud part of that. Tomorrow, the programming is in the morning, 10 a.m. I will be back with Nevermind the Furthermore. Please join us. It will be fun. And then tomorrow night, we're going to have a special edition of Clever Title Pending again. We're bringing back Luke Stone. He is the author and writer of the Hybrid Sons of God series, and he's starting a brand new story arc. He's just released his first trade paperback of the first 5 issues with some added material. But now he started a brand new crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo, and it's in the closing days. So we're going to talk to him about what the next phase of his publishing is going to be like and what the progress is with Terraform Studios. And let's see. I think that's all we've got for tomorrow. We'll be on for probably about 6 hours each time, the way this is working. But anyway, it's been a blast having Bobby Nash on here, as always. It's been a blast. Sorry we couldn't get to everyone's comments and questions, but we'll have the man back, and we'll get to it then. Oh, also, don't forget, Thursday night, brand new show with me and Eric Hawkins, Clyde Hall, and Brian Rodman called Comic Book Spectrum. It's not the first episode, it's the first issue of it. And we're going to talk about comic books, past, present, and future. We're going to do some reviews. We're going to have a discussion about comics and what's on our mind and everything. And we invite you to be part of that discussion. Thank you all for being here. And good night to you, Jason Waldman. Have a good night. And as always, like I said, thank you to monarchpublishing.net. Check out their brand new book, Beowulf. It is currently being funded on Kickstarter, but you can get a sample if you go to monarchpublishing.net. Check it out. It's a really good book. Grant Lankard's done a great job on it. And of course, our continual thanks to Plasmafire Graphics for their ongoing sponsorship of our endeavors. PlasmaFireGraphics.com. Also check out their Facebook page when the look of your book matters to you. And if you're watching us on Kathy Jackson's books or the Rising Tide Broadcast Network or the Rising Tide Publications page, please give this video a like if you've enjoyed any part of it. All right. And because it helps us a lot. And also give a like to the page you're watching it on, because that helps our hosts. And we want to encourage them to keep having us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, on Geek Insider, or on the Rising Tide Publications page there, please give this a thumbs up, all right? If you've enjoyed or gotten something useful out of any part of it, we appreciate it so very much. And thank you to our 444 subscribers. We are happy as heck to have you, and hope you keep up with us. And also, let's see, checking my notes here, see if there's anything else I need to talk about. I don't think there is, but anyway, thank you. Quick thank you to my Patreon people. Also, check out Bobby Nash's Patreon page as well as our own. We give you stuff on an ongoing basis in return for your ongoing support. Thank you so much. Go to www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris for more details. And as always, thank you so very much for being here. We appreciate you, or your support of our shows, and hope you enjoy the rest of what's being offered on the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. So as always, as I cue the next things to be run tonight. Anyway, thank you for being here on Clever Title Pending. We hope to see you tomorrow with Luke Stone. And as always, folks, stay smart, stay safe, wash your hands, and never apologize for being awesome, because that's just what you are. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you tomorrow night and tomorrow morning on tomorrow night on Clever Title Pending. Oh, by the way, next week will be the March 2nd episode of Clever Title Pending. We will have a less than special guest, but we'll talk about that later. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
Hazel always knew there was something special about her cat Mooney, but she's still shocked when Mooney opens his mouth to tell her he's just had a vision. An ancient evil has awoken after centuries of sleep, and only one man can stop it: the legendary warrior Beowulf. Unfortunately, it's been over 1,000 years since he slayed a dragon, and he's been reincarnated as this guy. His name is Victor, and he's more unemployed millennial slacker than mighty warrior. Go to monarchpublishing.net for a free sample comic.
Thank you for tuning in to Clever Title Pending, a Rising Tide Publications and Brian K. Morris production. A member of Comic Book Advocating Network and sponsored by GeekInsider.com. Become part of our show with sponsorship and advertising opportunities. For details, contact advertising@geekinsider.com or visit podcast.geekinsider.com. The Geek Insider podcast is available on your favorite app, so please hit the follow button and share it out to your friends. Because if you don't, you might have to turn in your geek card.